You watch much comedy here in Perth?
No, to be fair, like because I obviously am not from Perth, for many years I was learning the language. So it was hard. I would go to a comedy show and I would just laugh when other people were laughing. I wouldn't understand. I wouldn't understand what the guy was trying to say, but I was trying to laugh too, and other people made me laugh. Actually, not the comedians, so no.
Just some like social pressure laughing. Yeah,
I actually, just I went to a few comedy shows, but yeah, no, I did go to the Perth Comedy Club a few months ago, and that was fun. I saw an Australian guy, and I understood everything, which was great. And yeah, it was fun. But I don't do it as often as every time I go there, I want to go again, but I never take the time to do it.
Because I think comedians, if you're a good comedian now, I would say like the meta or the current style of comedian that's most popular is someone that is speaking, their version of truth. They're saying things that we sort of all think but don't really pay attention to at times, and that's like the current meta of comedy. And so like comedians in a way have a slightly greater attuned sense of, I just thought this. How crazy is it that I just thought that? Or I just did this. How crazy is it that I just did that? And so they sort of pick apart those minor interactions that you don't realize you're having throughout your day, and then throw them in front of the world. Yeah. And
make fun of it.
And that's the thing, most of the time, those are the thoughts you would think to yourself, I couldn't possibly share that with someone. And then when you've got a whole room full of people laughing about it, you realize, everyone, or largely everyone, has had this experience. Part of
people
it is going,
relate.
I know that thought, or I know that feeling, or I know that action. I did that, and I thought that was like terrible thing, or like whatever it is. It's like, oh my God, we're all the same, like messed up people.
There's no shame out of anything.
Yeah. So. And comedians are great at that. They break down the shame, but that's why I think they're going to be so good on podcasts, because that's their bread and butter, right? Talking, picking out things in life which is strange to them. That's why they're probably, not all comedians are good, but that's why they're hopefully good at what they do, is because they're really good at being interested in the weirdness about life, But I think, you almost have like a different version of that, right? Like you've come here, didn't know how to speak English. Like how long do you think it took you to pick up like where you're now pretty comfortable?
Look, I think a good 5 years, 6 years. At the beginning, it's really the, hello, my name is Jules, I am looking for a job. I am a French chef, So it took me a few years, I think 5, 6 years. But look, I've been here for 13 years, and you can still hear my accent. And sometimes some words I use are not even English. So I think I've got a good English, but I've got a bit of a mixed accent, because when I came here, some people were from New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, England. So you get a bit mixed up in Australia. But yeah, 5 years to properly learn English, that was, what was needed for me.
And when you first got here, how well was the accent received by, gals?
Look, I don't think I had the sexiest French accent.
Oh, no.
No. Like I've always, it's always been a shame. I've always wish I had it. When you see these French actors, in movies, and they have this beautiful French accent. Well, I don't have that. My French accents sound just not sexy. So, but look, I think being French, it's like a great marketing tool to be using if you want to be dating people in Australia. Not that I've been using it, but I see a lot of French backpackers that are having great time here,
Yeah. Well, that's it. You got to make the most of what you got. And accents, it turns out, when you're in a different place, that your accent is different to everyone else's, you're somehow way more interesting to everyone.
And it's funny how, if for people that speak a different language, you will know that the way you speak English will be different. Your voice will be different in the way you speak French or Spanish or Italian.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny how the body adjusts, and you wouldn't think it's normal, but I don't know, the body, you just do it automatically.
It's very strange. I always wondered, I know what it sounds like to hear a French accent, or a German accent when they're speaking English. Mm-hmm. But I always thought how weird it would be, if an Australian speaks French, or an American speaks French,
I think
or
it's
a Brit speaks French. Again, that style of accent, what you're hearing, I'm like, what does that sound like?
For me, I think it sounds very good. if we talk about girls, like if someone from Australia speak French, I think it's very cute. Like obviously it's always hard for Australian or English to speak French because you sound stupid. That's what people think. But for us, I think, we're just thankful that someone can speak our language.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds really cool.
Yeah, well,
can you say anything in French or can you just amaze me?
Je m'appelle Harry. J'habite Wembley.
But you see, just this is fantastic. Not that I will, have sex with you. That's nothing.
Damn it!
I don't find it sexy, but it's impressive and it's cool.
Comment t'appelles-vous?
Jules. Je m'appelle Jules. Yeah, that's very good. You've listened in classes.
Yeah, those 3 years in school that everyone was like, yep. And it turns out most of the time we weren't listening. One, because, I guess for an all-boys school, language was largely not really that cared about. You live in Australia, you're not surrounded by anywhere, so you just like...
You don't think you have to? It
doesn't seem like it's a worthwhile thing to learn a whole other language. And why learn French, for an example, versus like German or Russian or Brazilian or Indonesian or like...
I think it would make more sense for you guys to learn Indonesian.
100% it would. That would make way more sense. Or Mandarin or something, like within the Asias. I think that would make a lot of sense. But again, the French class was, and throughout my entire schooling career, the best looking teacher.
What was your French teacher? What was her name?
Madame Bonnet.
That sounds like
shout out.
That's
shout out to Madame Bonnet. If you listen to this,
I'm sorry, but it sounds like a French porn movie.
It does, mate. You know what? Like every boy in that school played that movie out in their heads. So
okay,
it was undoubtedly the French teachers that were always the best looking. Now, why that's the case, I can't tell you, but and I'm not saying this because I was in a private school with just boys, and so like yes, we were starved of females around us, but even if we weren't, these teachers were unreal.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like
maybe because of the school you went to, they had the money to recruit the
yeah. They just went, all right, the boys are not going to listen to French instructions, but maybe they will.
To Madame Bonnet.
To Madame Bonnet.
But look, I think it comes to the French etiquette is really something, same in the wine industry, just because someone is French. I think we get a bit of a lift just by being French. Like my granddad has been doing wine all his life, so he had vineyards back in France, and he came here when he was 80 years old. And he looked at the whole vineyard, wine industry in Australia. Tried a lot of wine and was a big fan. And he told me, Jules, you know what? The Australian wine is as good as the French wine. The only reason why the French wine is better than Australian is because it's French. So that French etiquette just works a lot on many, perspective of life, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, in some ways, I still think that almost does warrant French wine to taste better. And what I mean by that is, like having this tradition and sort of a brand almost really within France. You've been winemakers for so long, you've got these regions and sort of the culture that you've created around wine. It does create this extra little bit of specialness. Now, if you were to objectively just measure the chemical compositions and say like, this is where this comes from and here's a flavor profile, maybe they all, the quality would be similar, but you kind of got to respect the fact that like, because there's a brand behind it, like we do buy into the taste of an idea as well.
Yeah.
And so like, you got to give credit as well.
Look, don't get me wrong. Like on the grand scheme of things, if you look at the two countries, the quality will be obviously France. It's a bit, up there.
Yeah.
But, there are always those 10-20% of vineyards in France, which are way up there. Like they've been doing this for such a long time. So I don't want to, take out the credit from the French wine. But overall, if you look at the entire market, because in France you got a bit of everything, you can get a bottle of wine for €3, which will be good, and some bottles, there will be 2,000 euros. So
yeah, the Aussies, we're like the wine pirates, we're coming through. We're taking names. We're
you guys have millions of dollars too. Like you see the setup of the vineyards here. Any people that work in the wine industry from France that come and visit vineyards here, they are shocked. The amount of equipment you guys have, we're still doing it by hand back home. Like the equipment are there in France, but Australia is advanced. The amount of investors' money that went into the wine industry in Australia is massive.
Damn. go Aussies. We just love to get pissed.
Yes, yeah.
And now we're trying to be slightly cultured by getting pissed on the good grape juice, not just a goon bag. Did you have a goon bag?
Look, I did. When I moved here, obviously, that was nice and cheap. That was sweet. I get drunk very quickly. So I did buy, some goons when I was 18. I moved here when I was 18. So when I was 18, 19, 100%. I don't remember when was the last time I did it, but 100%.
Good man. You were about to say something, or?
I don't remember.
Okay, so you came over when you were 18. What actually, and for anyone that doesn't know, by the way, a goon bag was the drink of choice for young adults, sometimes maybe underage, I guess we could say, because it would cost you, $15, $20 for like 3 liters of wine in like a plastic alfoil bag that you could just drain around a group of people and everyone is lit. And it costs you nothing. And at that age, hangovers don't exist anyway, really. So, you just sort of cop it. But, sorry, to go back to the original 18, you've come over, and that's sort of a little bit what I want to get it into today as well, is just your story on the whole. Like, what prompted you guys or yourself just to come over to Australia at that time? What was going on?
Oh, look, so long story is, since I was very young, I was telling my parents I wanted to go travel and make money, and I wanted to stop school. I couldn't understand how I could go to classes and not get paid while being able to work in a restaurant and do the dishes and get paid 10 euros an hour. So for me, the equation wasn't working. So from a very young age, maybe 14, 15, I was telling my parents I wanted to stop school, I wanted to go traveling. When I was 16, an Australian rugby player came to my hometown to play for 3 months, and he was staying at our house. And I remember just, he stayed for 3 months and we became good mates. He couldn't speak a word of French, he was learning, and so we're talking a bit of French and English. And I told him, look, the day I turn 18, I'll come and see you. And that's it. I was 18 in a few months. I took my backpack, bought the flight tickets and told my parents. My parents have always been very supportive. And I came to Sydney. So I flew first in Sydney.
Damn, that's pretty elite. So you knew from a young age, so the whole time through school you were still working? You were trying to save up coins? Or
I stopped school when I was 16.
Okay.
I was still working. I was still studying. About 16 I stopped, basically. My dad had a small cafe, a small restaurant. I was working with my dad. I was working on during from a young age, whenever I could work and make money, I would do it, because I just wanted to save and have my own money and buy my own things. So that was always the goal, I guess. When you were at school, did you just hate the whole process, or were there some things that you really liked there, or? No, I love school. School was amazing. I love the people, the teacher. I think I wasn't that bad. It's just I didn't see the purpose of it.
Right.
I knew that, I was 16 years old and I could work 40 hours a week, make 10 euros an hour. That's good amount of money to make, your $1,200 a month, 1,200 euros a month, which is good money when you're 16. And actually, when from 16 to 18, I started my first business, my first side hustle, which was, my family name is Jules Aknin, Aknin. So I had AK Production. So it nice. Was an actual registered, company. And because I knew a lot of people in my hometown, I used to go to bars and say, look, you've got a good venue. We're going to organize a party. So I had a party, which was called the Winter Happiness. That was happening monthly. I will go to a bar, say, look, you got the venue. I will take care of the DJ and the security guards and the promotion of the advertising of the party, and you take care of the drinks. Okay. So what I will do, I will just do a flyer, just get 300-400 people coming to this party. I will charge €5 per entrance, so that's not much, but that's 400 people, that's €2,000. I will pay the security guard maybe €50 for the night, which now actually play for it was recruited for the French team, the guy that was doing the security
for the
rugby French team in France, and he plays for Montpellier, which they play in the top 14 in one of the best rugby league in France, sorry.
Elite.
And the DJ will cost me maybe €80. The flyers will cost me maybe €100. So, in total, €230. I'll just get in €2,000. So I will make my, €1,800 a month at the age of 16. And the average salary was €1,200. So I was making good money from a young age just by, just generating my own income. So
even to begin with, I mean, it's... Okay, it sounds very simple, right? All right, just get a bunch of people into a bar, put on a good show, take some money, the bar's happy because they're getting lots of drinks bought, all well and good. getting 300 or 400 people into anything isn't actually super simple, right? Like the very first one you did you already have that number of
300,
people?
yeah.
So your very first one, you got 300.
Yeah.
How
maybe
long was
250, let's say.
How long was your lead up time? Like how long? Did you
Maybe
give yourself
like
to?
6 weeks. But look, and that's my skill now in business. I'm very good with people, advertising, marketing, sales. So I just genuinely wanted to organize a good party. Like any product or service I'm selling now, I genuinely believe it's a good product or service, so it's easy to sell it. And my hometown was fairly small, so that was easy. I was part of the rugby team, so obviously all my mates will come and they'll bring all their mates, and we were 16. We'll all get drunk on the Friday night, and that was amazing. So
Cool. All right. So you had a bit of a cohort. So do you think that was because there would be someone at some point that will listen to this and go, "That's actually a decent way to try and generate
100%.
a little bit of cash," particularly if you are from a small town and something like that doesn't really exist. So you put out a bunch of flyers. You got a 6-week lead time.
Yeah.
You tell all your mates from
Create
the
a
rugby or
brand.
sports team. Your brand was AK.
AK Prediction. The name of the night was Winter Happiness.
Winter Happiness.
It started in winter, so it was Winter Happiness.
And before you open the doors to the bar, before the night begins, did you already have
Pre-sales?
a sense of
No pre-sales, but like every time that was a bit scary. But I've actually maybe organized 15 of these parties, and the biggest one I had 800 people. So you never know. And I've had one where maybe 50 people walked up, so I lost a bit of money. So it was always a bit stressful, but I was always very confident that my friend would support me. And why would people not come to my parties? It's fun. It's cost €5 to get in, great music. We even organized one night a secret party where we advertised it for like 2 months, but nobody knew the location. So we had this massive warehouse in the middle of my hometown where, like an hour before the party, everybody received like a text message.
Yeah.
And people loved that. And that was like, 12, 13 years ago. So not many people were doing stuff like that. So that was fun. So you never know, but you never knew, but my investment wasn't too big. More, the investment was just me, talking to people and telling them it's going to be amazing. And obviously when you're young, you care about what people think of you. So if you organize a party and it's not as good as what you say it will be, and people come, there's only 20 people, it sucks, So that was the bigger risk out of everything. The money side of it, no, because if I lost money on that one, I was very confident I could make money on the next one.
Sure. Still, it's very bold. Yeah, it's like an impressive thing to do. And that was at 16?
16,
first one?
yeah.
Okay. So you do that a bunch of times. Once a month, you're doing that. And then you're just largely saving up your cash?
No, so when I was 16, I was able to rent like a 70 square meter apartment, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom in the middle of my hometown. So I was living there with my best mate at the time, living my best life. But look, I was very responsible. My parents, I was 16, I was 16, but I knew what I wanted in my life. So I was still in contact with my parents all the time. It's a small town, but so I wasn't saving too much because life in France is still expensive. But I was having a great time, 100%. But I remember I give you something, and I think that's something like a lot of young people need to learn from. Obviously, being into the nightlife, there's a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, and the bad things are, I think drug, that really affects, people partying at a young age. And I remember when I was 16 years old and I was doing business with people that were 25, 30, 35 years old in the industry, that were, running nightclubs and all the rest. And they were always asking me if I wanted cocaine, and for me, I was like, because I was young, I didn't want to say yes. I didn't want to say no because I wanted them to like me, So I will always say yes. And then they will go in the toilet, do whatever they do. And then they will just come out of the toilet and tell me, "Hey Jules, I've put a few lines on the toilets." And I would just go into the toilets, put them in the toilet, just because I didn't want to touch cocaine, and just like walk out of the bathroom, being like whole pumped. "Oh, man, it's so good, I love it," just because I wanted to be accepted. But the key message behind it is like I wasn't taking it. So, when you do things like this, and even more into the nightlife, you will have at an early age, if you're 16 or 17 trying to do stuff like this, you're going to have to be careful because it's not a beautiful industry to work in, I think.
Damn, dude. Like, it's very hard when you're in that age. I think anything from, as soon as puberty really hits as well, but, that's 16 to 23, I think, somewhere around there. That's very hard to not, try and fit in and, do, exactly. If someone was like, "Oh, do a bit of this," and you're like, yeah. Like, even if you don't want to, it's what, like, have you always been pretty good at, you know, if you believe something or you think a certain way, you kind of avoided
willpower,
peer pressure?
Yeah, it's strong. Like I've always had a very strong willpower. So if I, you know, like I don't, obviously everybody get affected by third parties, you know, we are human beings, but I've been good. I've been very good.
Very impressive. I've done the occasional little line here and there, and the one thing that I've noted about it is, I mean, particularly in Australia, it's basically pointless, but there is a level of grossness to it that, like, if you've ever done, or if you've been around people that have done a lot, or it's like their thing that they like need to do when they go out, it is not a good look.
No, look, I see people, they're 35, and look, I'm not judging anyone, but I see people, they're 35, 40, 45, 50 years old, and they're still taking that shit. And I understand when you're young, you just want to try and you just give it a shot. I fully understand it. You know, everybody's been there. But at some stage, you want to step back and, you know, you just like focus on yourself, because that shit is not good for you, 100%. Yeah. Same with alcohol, you know, like, you know, people that just drink a lot. I'm not saying not to drink, but it is not good for you. It's not something, it's not because you drink that you feel better the next day or you just be stronger or smarter. You know, there's nothing good out of it. So like for me, I'm very big on that. As much as I've had my party and I like having a drink sometimes. So if you see me drunk in Northbridge one night, don't tell me you're a liar, you know. But I'm very, very cautious. I drink as little as I can, you know. And in terms of you know, drugs, no, like I don't take drugs. I did when I was younger. I tried. You know, I'm not gonna lie, because some people was gonna be listening to the podcast and be, what a liar. I did it when I was younger, and to be fair, everything started when I moved to Australia. Before 18, I was against drugs. In France, people that would take pills and all the rest would be junkies. So from my perspective of life, but when I moved here, like I'm a bit shocked with how much drugs the younger Australian generation are taking, and that was a bit of a shock at the beginning, obviously, but there's nothing too bad, but it's much more than in Europe. In Europe, people like smoking weed more, I think, than taking pills and cocaine. Cocaine is a bit for older people, but even that, you know, for me, I think, it's Australia, it's next level in terms of drugs. Yeah,
I don't know if it's like the festival culture here, but the pills were probably the first drug I was introduced to, I want to say. And again, it's mostly like festivals would come up and it just seemed like the thing everyone does or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone just has like a little pill that you take in, you're drinking a few drinks, then you have this and you don't need to worry about drinking drinks for like 2 hours.
I think it's the financial part of it, you know, for younger Australians, because life is so expensive here and drinks are so expensive. If you want to get drunk, it will cost you $200. Taking a drug, as you said, to taking like a pill, as you say, is like save you a lot of money. You pay $30 and then you just have fun the whole night. So I understand why some younger Australian get into it, but it's not good.
Yeah, it seems like how I imagine it happens is, I mean, younger guys do it and gals because you see like the older groups doing it, right? Or, you know, brothers or sisters or people that are older are offering or providing, or whatever it is, totally normalized. And then those older people would have done it because, again, it's usually like one person in the group is probably earning decent coin and just goes like, I'll just buy, and then like people can each like shout what they want. And then you see a couple people have, and so you have someone goes like, oh, I'll try, and like, no, I'll try. You know, and it's like this slow bit of one person sort of doing this big like purchase, passing out a couple, and a few more people go, oh, maybe I'll try one. Okay, maybe I'll try one. And you see this all the time. Even now, drugs honestly are not really a big part of. They were much larger, at least within my cohort, when we were like early and mid 20s. Now pretty much doesn't really exist so much. But you would see someone would collect a bunch, and there'd been like 2 or 3 people from the get-go that was like, no, I'm not going to have any. Okay. And as soon as a few people have a little bit, they're like, oh, can I just have just like a little bit? Can I
half of it?
Just like a little, you know?
Give me a quarter.
So, yeah, again, I don't know if it's that peer thing, it's that fear of missing out, you know, like, you know, there's like a real strong desire to be a part of the group, again, in those early 20s in particular, right? Yeah. So you see it, it's available, and you just go, oh, well, if everyone else is doing it, I guess like, it can't be that bad, or I'll just have a little bit, so I'm a part of it, you know? And that seems to be, for Aussies, we just love to get on it, apparently.
Like, look, I've seen it because I was here since I was 18, so I was able to 18 to 31 really see some of the people I knew at the time just evolve. And it's very much into, if I had a kid in Australia and he was like 20 years old, I would be very scared.
Okay, you'd be like, I know what's
I would just
around.
like I will make sure like you don't want to be too strict with your kids, because I think that if you tell a kid not to go to that room, he's gonna go in that room,
Yeah.
But you want to be educating your children about drugs and what can happen if you take too much, because you don't want that to tell you don't want to tell them don't take any, but the education part of it is so important, I think. And for me, I'm not I won't have a kid this year, but I know that the day I've got a kid and they get to the age of 13, 14, 15, anything related to sex or drugs, I will just make sure I've got very good conversation and making sure like communication between the kids and myself is really open. And that's the relationship I had with my parents that I really worked. I can talk about anything with my parents: sex, drugs, relationships. We are very open-minded, with some limits, obviously, but I want the same. And I think it's very important for any kids.
Would you ever consider, some parents that maybe a little bit more open, they'll share some of those experiences with their kids as like a first time, so like sipping a bit of alcohol with them or whatever? Would you ever consider that, or that's kind of like... Yeah.
No. Look, I see the purpose of it, and I think it can be beneficial. Obviously, you're not going to do this with your kid if you see your kid is definitely not interested into drugs. You don't want to force them to take it.
You're like, how you're not into this? Like, I bought us a bag together.
Yeah. It's more for yourself than for the kid then, But yeah, look, I understand how, for me, if let's say my kids, I could see that it was going toward this, this way of hanging out with kids that take drugs and all the rest, perhaps for his security, yeah, why not? Say, you know what, let's go out tonight. Let's, do something. So then you can connect. And there's this trust and transparency, that will start building up between your kid and yourself, which, he will be able, if one day he's having a bad trip or if one day something happened, he will be able to, he will feel that he can call you and tell you, which is very important.
And so just want to get back to the fact that you've come here when you're 18, right? You've been doing this little party event back home, generated a bit of cash. You've now come to Australia at 18. Did you have a plan? Like, did you know what you were sort of going to do, or it was really just on the fly when you first arrived?
Look, the plan, I've always wanted to make money, but I think if I think about the brain that I had when I was 18, I think the whole purpose of me coming to Australia was to go as far as I could for my parents and my family, to prove to them that I can make it without them. I think the whole psychology behind it was exactly that when I look at it. At the time, no, I would just want to go travel and learn English and make money. But I think that was, I just wanted to go and just make it happen. And I remember, like, I arrived in Sydney and Maribor Beach, I had a place into a beautiful share house. And I was working for a pizza shop at night time, and straight away I was 18 years old, no experience, no English. I rented the place, and that's true. It's a true story. I rented the place because it was open it was closed during daytime. I said, look, I'm going to open a French cafe in the morning. So in the morning, I will open at 6 a.m. and do like baguette with butter and honey and croissant and long blacks and like very French. And because I wanted to have my own place. So, I did this for 4 days. Nobody came. Then I freaked out and I ran away, because obviously I was trying to offer a product to people that have no idea about, baguette with butter and honey. And for me, it made so much sense because it was French and it was delicious. Yeah. But that was my first little thing in Australia where, I tried to do this. And yeah.
Okay, so that was the first panic. So you tried this for 4 days and then you went, all right.
Yeah, 4 days. And I think I was 18, 4 days. And, I just wanted to give it a shot, but it didn't really work. We had some good feedback. I didn't have the capacity to do it, to be fair. It was just, I've always been like a very entrepreneur at heart. So I wanted to do something. Another thing I wanted to do, and I've worked on it for many times because I was a lot into sport back in the days. I wanted to start a sports business in Sydney called the Wake Up Happiness, from the Winter Happiness.
Just keep going.
Yep. And I wanted to do something like this. But look, in Sydney, nothing had happened. I just worked in a few jobs, and 3 months later, I flew into Perth.
Right. Okay. So, what was the reason that you moved from Sydney to Perth? What was the...
And the reason is simple. Like, I was at the newspaper. I had a small job. I was working in a golf course. I was doing the dishes, in the restaurant there. And I was reading the newspaper, and I was back in 2011, okay? I was reading the newspapers, and the front page of the newspapers was the percentage of development of each cities in Australia. And all the cities on the East Coast were like 3%, 5%, 7%. But Perth was like at 13 or 15%, like a crazy amount. That's when I looked at my mate and I was like, look, if we want to make millions, that's where we need to be. So the next day we took a flight, we came to Perth.
Yeah. Oh, so you left with a mate as well. So you both decided, okay, let's make that happen. Okay. And then, so for you, how many times, so like, you know, you did this little cafe attempt in Sydney.
Yeah.
Right. And part of the entrepreneurial journey is just sometimes just trying shit. And of course,
give it a go. Yeah.
The bulk of what you do is going to fail or at least not succeed straight away. So was that one of the first times that you can recall really trying a small business idea and it didn't work out? Or had you already attempted a bunch of stuff previously? Like how much of a hit to you was that not working?
No, look, this was very low. I don't think I spent $1 in setting up the cafe. I just basically told the guy, look, you're closed. I'm just going to open the doors. And I'm just going to be selling coffees and croissant in the morning. So no investment. So that it wasn't a setback. It was a very good experience. I remember leaving without saying anything to the owner because I was ashamed. And a few months later, I couldn't bear to leave thinking that I never to call the owner. And I remember calling the owner, the phone line of the restaurant, say, hey, mister, I don't remember his name. This is Jules, you know, I'm just very sorry I've left. Like I felt ashamed I couldn't make it work. And the guy was so happy. I called, I said, look, Jules, no problem. I'm very proud of you for calling. There's no issue at all. But yeah, that wasn't really a setback for me, but it was a life lesson.
Oh man, that's good. You would have felt so much better.
As soon as I hang up the phone, I haven't told this to many people, but I felt so good. And I think that's where I have my first touch, and which is very important as a leader, is to be very vulnerable. You know, being able to accept that you've done a mistake or being able to call someone and say, I'm sorry. And that was my first time. And for 2 months, I was thinking about it all the time because in my head, maybe I'll get back to Sydney and he's going to see me. And that was such a big fail for me, just not to have succeeded as a restaurant, but to have left, freaked out and just left. So just calling and telling him I'm sorry. And I knew he didn't spend any money anyway. It's just I left without saying anything. Just it felt very good, yeah.
And yeah, look, you can imagine from his side, you know, he's a small business owner. He knows what it would be like, you know, if it's not working out. And for a young kid to come in and just try something, you know, like that sort of thing is kind of inspiring when you see it anywhere. Like even if I see young people doing anything, like if you see young kids selling lemonade or, you know, like things like 100%. That, I love, right? Like it really makes me feel like, fuck yeah,
I'm
like
so
go on,
yeah,
like you're so proud. So, you know, this small business owner, he would have seen you be like, you know, this kid's giving it a go. And he's not heard from him. He's been like, you know, obviously I'd probably know what sort of happened to get the call. He's like, oh, he's a good dude. Like, and good on you for, you know, like it's such a nice moment for him as well. He's like, oh, yeah, that kid's going to do well. Like, good on him. So yeah, I'm sure you felt a lot better. That's definitely owning up to your shameful experiences. There's nothing, I think, more liberating to that.
Oh, 100%.
That, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever you feel deep shame about something, vocalizing it and almost admitting like the reason why I can't even talk about it is because I'm ashamed of it. It sort of takes away the power of whatever it is, you know, straight away. Okay, so you leave Sydney on actually a pretty good note. No bridges burnt. Come over to Perth, and then what happens next?
I straight away went to a backpacker and found a share house, massive share house in Northbridge, and I got my first job. I was working at Toyota in Northbridge. It used to be like an old Toyota center, and I was washing cars Monday to Fridays, 35, 40 hours a week, $15 an hour cash, underpaid at the time, but it's okay. I was a migrant, you know, I couldn't speak English, I didn't mind. And at nighttime, I was working, so Monday to Friday I was doing this, and Wednesday to Sunday I was working into a pizza shop in East Perth, washing dishes into, that was called Pink Pepper. So I had 2 jobs. I was just started working, and that's where I saved. And I remember I was 18 years old, or maybe 19 by that time. That's where I saved my first $10,000. And as a kid from France, saving $10,000 is like, it could take you years in France to save 10,000. You know, if you make 1,500 euro a month, and at the end of the month you save 300 euro, it takes you like, you know, at the end of the year you got 3,600 euro. It takes you 3 years of hard work and, you know, consistent saving to save 10,000 euros. And for me, like in 3 months working hard, 2 jobs, I had my $10,000. And I remember taking that screenshot and feeling great. So that was the first experience when I came to Perth.
Sick. So again, your whole thing at the moment is I just want to accrue cash. whatever jobs it requires for me to do that. You're just going to do it. So you're pretty much working day, working night. Did you have time off at all during that period?
No. I mean, time off. What is time off? Like maybe Monday evening and Tuesday evening. But the rest of the time, I was making, I think, I was saving $1,000 a week. I was making $1,300 a week. I was paying maybe $200 in rent and $100 in food, and the rest I was saving it for just hard work. And as soon as I completed my $10,000, I went back to France for the summer.
Cool. So again, was that part of the plan, or it just sort of happened?
Not
you went,
really.
I'm going to make the. Cool. I'm going to celebrate a little bit the fact that I've done this. Feels like a good achievement. Yeah. So you go back to France for the summer.
Spent it all. I spent the entire $10,000. I lived like a king. I was telling people, I saved $10,000 in 3 months. Like that. So I spent it all. I had a great time. Then I had no more money, so I came back to Australia.
It's funny. Most people go back to their home country when they've spent all their money. You went home to spend all your money, then come back to Australia.
I think, if I go back into the brain of a 19 years old, it was also like an ego thing where I wanted to go home and show people, cool, Yeah. At 18, I just went to Australia for a year. I've learned English. I've saved $10,000. Obviously, I wasn't screaming to people. I mean, maybe I did. I don't remember, but I don't think so. My dad would have killed me to hate this kind of behavior, But, I think that was, I was proud of myself and I knew I would come back to Australia. So I just wanted to go there, just have fun. That was summer, everybody goes to Europe during summer. There's a reason why, well, me too,
Yep.
And so I just enjoyed, I think June, July, or July, August. I'm not sure.
Man, you would have come back home and anyone you told that story to would be like, fuck, Jules is such a king. Just chilling in Australia, making thousands of dollars, coming back now, living like a king. Fuck, that's so cool, dude. All the chicks love him now.
No, look, to be honest, I don't think so, because like France is a beautiful country to live in and can make good money. And I don't think I was showing it off. I wasn't showing it off.
Sure.
But a lot of people, talk about it.
I mean, that's the age to show off, though. Like, if you're going to be a little bit of an egotistical shit that's worked hard for a good period, blowing off a little bit of steam, then like that would be an acceptable period at least, or at least one of the more acceptable periods to be a little bit ego driven, and then you like eventually look back and go, oh, I shouldn't have been that ego driven. But I mean, that's probably the time.
There's nothing bad at doing it when you're 18, 19, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're still the center of the world at that point, I think at that age, I don't know about you. I don't know if I thought mortality was real. Like I thought, like there's a main story that I'm living out in some sense. And
you don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, you're kind of immortal at that time, and you're just a version of your own king or something. So you've gone back home. Are you tempted at all to sort of stay back in France?
No, fuck no.
No, okay.
Like in my head, like when you a young Frenchman and you save 10,000 AUD in 3 months. It will take you 3-4 years in France to do it. You understand the potential you have. And, as a migrant, you're going to make it. And look, I saved 10,000 AUD at the age of 19, washing cars and washing dishes, okay, getting underpaid. So I was like, man, I'm going to go back to this place. Plus, saying that is, Australia is a beautiful country. The people were amazing. I was playing rugby for UWA. So I had a good life, It was very good. So, no, I wanted to come back. And before I came back, a mate of mine in Nîmes told me he wanted to start a business. He wanted to set up hot dog stand on the freeway. There's fuel station on the freeway in France, and he wanted to set up hot dogs. And I was like, that's a great idea. And I was already thinking of what kind of business I would do when I come back, because I've always wanted to be self-employed, And I was like, that's good, And for me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this in nightclub. So I came back to Australia with the idea of starting a hot dog business.
Okay, so that's where it came from. Because, we're obviously going to get into how that business sort of came about. So you actually went home, a friend had done it, or was just talking about doing it?
Just talking. Yeah.
Did that friend end up doing it? Or
no.
Only ever just talked about it? Okay, so you heard the idea and you went, I'm going to put that into... What in your brain was making you go, that's a good idea? Was it just the margins made
unique
sense?
Projects. No. At that time, I knew nothing about P&Ls and margins and GSTs. And, just like I just knew that the project was cool. Do you see hot dog stands anywhere in Australia apart from Bunnings and IKEA now? So like in my head, I was like, man, that's a unique project, nice and easy to do. I've got experience in the food industry, but I'm not like a very good chef, so that will do. So yeah, I went back to Perth with the idea, and I was working in the pizza shop. And basically, what happened is, like a few months later, I was just going to another pizza shop, which I was working in Northbridge, and I stopped working at the first one. You know, the guy fired me for just a petty reason. Anyway, I was...
Should we... The firing?
Look, the firing was just like the guy asked me to drive it to go deliver a pizza on the scooter, but the phone order wasn't working. So he asked me to drive the scooter and hold the phone with my other hand. Okay, and then I got into an accident. So I went back to the place being paper, and the guy fucking fired me, and I couldn't speak English. I was a French backpacker. I knew nothing about fair work and all the rest.
Yeah.
So, you know, he didn't even pay my last week. And he just kicked me. And a lot of people do this to young backpackers that just can't take advantage.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, peace to him. And you will see why I don't mind him, because he comes back into the story at some stage.
Okay.
So that place was in East Perth. Okay?
And look, and maybe a good lesson for small business owners out there: hire backpackers because you can get away with shit.
That's it. Yeah. Now they're becoming very smart now.
Yeah.
There are a lot. You know about it. There
That's
are a lot
not
of groups.
actually advice, by the way.
You get in trouble because the French community is getting bigger and bigger, and we've got all this French in Perth group who's like 30,000 people, and now like French people's been living here for many years. They are lawyers and all the rest, and we love taking, you know, Australians' money. No, I'm joking. So basically, a few months later, I was going to a pizza show, like to my job, and on Gumtree, I saw a hot dog stand for sale. And I saw that hot dog stand, and I was like, man, this is the future. I can do something with it. You know, I had the idea of starting a hot dog business.
Were you specifically looking for it? It just popped up.
That was an imported hot dog stand from New York for 3,500 AUD. I didn't have the money. I was fairly broke. You know, I just spent the summer in Europe. You know, I was working here, and, you know, life is expensive. And I remember calling my mum and saying, Mum, there is a business opportunity. There's a hot dog stand for sale, $3,500 dollars. I don't know why I need it, but I think I could make a very big business out of it. And we talked for maybe like a few days, and she was like, Jules, I'm going to give you the money, but don't tell your dad. Okay. She sent me the money. I bought the hot dog stand. At that time, I forgot to say, I was living into a share house with 20 Taiwanese. We were maybe 4 or 5 people per bedroom. That was a great time, by the way, to learn about the Taiwanese culture, which I love them. I was very...
How did that happen?
I didn't know. Man, when you come here and you don't know anyone, you don't know where to sleep. Well, if someone offers you like $80 a week to sleep into a share house, you take it.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
So,
are you just on Facebook groups to find these things?
I think in the pub. I saw a drunk Taiwanese guy, and he was the one that, like a lot of them were doing this at the time. They're just friends with big houses, and they sublease it, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so my mum sent me the money. We couldn't tell my dad. I bought the hot dog stand, and I put it into the garage of the big share house where I was living. And every day I would leave to work, and I could see the hot dog stand getting a bit dusty at the back of the garden. I worked into the pizza place for, you know, a few months, and one day the pizza owner, which was Valentino in Northbridge, that was the corner of the roundabout blue building back in the days, come to me and say, hey, Jules, I've sold the business. I am sorry, you did a great job, but you don't have to come back tomorrow. The business is sold. I was like, dang, you know, just like I love that job. That was good. But in my head, and I've always thought like this, I was like, you know, maybe life is telling me to
move on to the next
opportunity.
That's
it. Get the hot dog stand going. So the next day I took the hot dog stand, drove down to Fremantle, King Square, went to the council, applied for a permit to be on King Square, and a week later I was there selling my hot dogs. Okay? So that's how Wassup Dog started, which the name at the beginning was Gourmet Hot Dog. I've got some very old school business card, which, you know, they had my face on it like this, you know, very tacky.
So what, you're still 19, 20 at this point?
I think I would be like 20 at that point. Maybe 21, 22. So sorry about the time frame.
No, that's all good. I'm just for context.
I was a bit older. So I've started, and this is actually a very interesting story. Is my first day of selling hot dogs under what became Wassup Dog was on King Square in Fremantle. So I went to Coles. I bought the Coles sausages, Coles bread, tomato sauce, mustard. Maybe I think I cut a bit of onions, but very nice and simple. I call them gourmet hot dog, $5. I cooked the sausages in my oven at home. I took them in a bain-marie with hot water to Fremantle. Okay.
Yep.
With I went to Coles, bought the Coles bread, and went on King Square in Fremantle for 12 hours. During 12 hours, I spent the whole day shouting, hot dog, $5. Who want my sausage? Sausage, $5. But in 12 hours, and that's a true story. I remember like it was yesterday. I sold 14 hot dogs at $5. Now, many people will look at it and say 14 hot dogs, $70 in 12 hours. That's shit. I was 22 years old. I remember walking back to my van at the end of a 12-hour days, and I felt like an entrepreneur. I felt like I made it. Because I was one of the first time that in Australia, I was able to generate the $70. And in my head, I wasn't thinking of, oh, that's not enough. In my head, I remember exactly like what it was yesterday. I was thinking, what if I had 10 hot dog stands today? And that was my mindset. And I remember like it was, I don't make this up. It's a story I've told many people. And that was a very pivotal moment in my life. So that's when I started Wassup Dog, came back the next day, obviously it started increasing and all the rest. Then I ended up having another hot dog stand, got the hot dog stand at the Fremantle Market. Then I got the gig at North Fremantle at Mojo Bars every Friday and Saturday, which was the kicker. Mojo Bars, I remember like to put it in perspective, I was also selling hot dogs at the Bird in Northbridge every Wednesday night.
Yep.
So I had a little business going, you know. I don't think how much money I was making, but I think I was paying the rent and, you know, making a bit of money. And, you know, at that stage, I knew I wanted to build a big business. And in my head, I was like, I will be either the next Red Bull or the next McDonald's. And true story. So everybody will come to the hot dog stand.
What's the Red Bull and what's the other one?
McDonald's.
Okay, yeah.
Macca's. You got it?
Now I got it.
And I was at the Bird on a Wednesday night, and a guy come to me and say, "Hey man, what do you do?" Bam bam. So look, man, I do the best hot dogs in Perth. You know, one day I will have hot dog stand all over Perth and Australia. I'm planning to be the next McDonald's. And the guy started talking and all this, and I was selling him my product and telling him, I've always been very passionate in any business I get into. And, you know, after maybe like 20 minutes of talking, him buying 2 hot dogs, and say, "Hey man," he looks at me, his name was Andrew. I say, "I own a bar called Mojo Bar in North Fremantle. Do you want to come sell hot dogs there on Friday night?" And that's where I started selling hot dogs at Mojo's in Fremantle. Okay. Mojo's were the kicker in the entire business because I was selling, by that time, the quality of the hot dog were much better. I was going to a butcher and getting quality sausages and all the rest. And I was selling a hot dog for $8 or $10. Let's make it $10 to make it easier.
Easy, sure, yep.
Okay. And I remember that night, next to Mojo's bar, there's a burger place called Flipside. So
Yep.
I got an agreement with Mojo's and Flipside, and whenever the kitchen will close, I could set up at the front and sell hot dogs. So the kitchen of Flipside will close at 9 p.m. From 9 p.m. till the end of the night, maybe 1, 2 in the morning, I will be selling hot dog at the front. The first night, you know, people get drunk, people smoke a lot of weed in Fremantle, they finish their gig, they are starving. Well, I did 100 hot dogs. I remember 100 hot dogs times $10 at $1,000 a night. You know, when you buy your product and all this, the cost of goods will be maybe $250. No electricity, no water, no insurance, no rent. Basically, I was making $600 a night, and I was like, early stage in Wassup Dog. So that's when I started making money. So I was doing this every Friday, every Saturday. Then I had on Saturday night, I'll finish at 2 a.m., go home, go have a sleep. At 6 a.m., I will be in the South Fremantle markets, selling hot dogs. So I had my little business, like very busy, but lucrative. Like I was making good money. So that's where Wassup Dog started. And then it went from 1 to 4 hot dog stand, doing a lot of birthday party, weddings, and all the rest.
So before you just start making some money, but the progression of the hot dog stand, right? So you're saying before, first batch, you're cooking the sausages back at home, using your oven, transporting them in a tray of warm water to keep them. So like even the progression of that. So then you're saying you're starting to go to a really nice butcher. You're opening up relationships with people that are giving you better produce. Now your hot dog stand, you're also cooking it there on the spot.
Like a proper sausage,
Proper sausage. So you're basically 100 hot dogs within a night. You can whip out, like you're just essentially getting more and more efficient at doing it. You're getting better with how your setup is. Mm-hmm. Why is it that you, though, like as you said at the beginning of the story, you remember that first day, you've got $60-$70, whatever it is, and you're thinking, fuck, well, what if I had 10? And like, I've just made money myself. That's super cool. So like that same experience, someone could also turn around and say, I just worked fucking 12 hours. I only made $70. Oh, this is shit. Right? Like, why do you think there's the difference between those two mindsets?
Oh, I think it's, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, and, you don't look at excuses, you look at opportunities. And I don't know. I remember like it was yesterday, walking back to my van, and it's in my blood, you know. And that's something I've got from my dad. He had my dad and mum always had small cafes and restaurants, and I've seen my dad struggling in business and not giving up. Like, you know, going into the kitchen and like smash, like punching the walls because we had no client, but he never gave up. So I really got this from my parents, and in my head, it wasn't a question of giving up. It was a question of believing into what I was doing and actually wanting to make it happen and not giving up. And so I don't know. It's just like anyone that can relate, they will relate. But if you are into this kind of mindset, I wouldn't be able to tell you what's the difference. But I guess you're either an entrepreneur and a risk taker, or you are not.
So, I mean, obviously for you, you weren't looking at paid through a function of time, right? You weren't going, well, whatever my time is, I should get paid this amount. It was just, how do I generate? The amount of time spent doesn't really matter as long as it's improving or I'm getting more or there is some room for growth here, right?
Over the time, there's two things that I think someone needs to have to get into a business at an early age. You need to be passionate about what you do, which I was. I like the food industry. I like the relationship with people. And you need to be in some ways irrational. And I say this to many people because anyone that will tell you, hey, do you want to start a business and invest like $10,000 and sell hot dogs on King Square and potentially make, no money? Anyone rational will look at you and be like, no, thank you. I can get a job at the bottle shop and make great money, working Sundays. So you want to be passionate and rational. That's the two main things. And for many years, and I'm still passionate and irrational into anything that I do. Obviously, I can be a rational man. And the more risk I take in business, the more rational you want to be. But being irrational is looking at someone that tells you that your business doesn't make sense and looking at him and telling it makes sense. Yeah. And this is where the irrationality and where the grand ideas came from. Anyone that came up with, the big business of today or, came up with something that created something new, I can guarantee you they were irrational because the people will have told them it's not possible. You can do it.
Yeah. So then during this time that you're sort of building as well, so from the point that you first do your first attempt and you're selling, you made your $70 to the point where you're now selling 100 hot dogs and mojos and you realize, now I've got a real way to generate some income. I'm selling it during night times after clubs where people are drunk, starving, and I can just smash these out at different clubs and bar venues and such. Between those two shifts, what was the time frame? Like, how long did it take you to get from that first day to
maybe I say 3 months,
which is really actually a very quick. Maybe it didn't seem quick, I don't know, but 3 months to start to go from I've made $70 to going I made $600 in a night. I mean, that's a huge leap in a very short space of time, right?
Yeah.
And then for you, were you again really paying attention to numbers at this point?
No.
Were you like drinking at all during this period?
No. So I remember, and at that time, that's when I met your brother, and I started. And I remember the guys were partying and all the rest, and I was always very focused at work. I was having a bit of party and all these, but I was very dedicated to my business. And anyone that was living with me will be able to tell you, even when we'll go party, I would just never miss a shift.
Yeah.
I'll just go to work, and I've got a good dedication at work. Once I get into something, I just work.
So you're pretty much just in, day out. This is what you're focused on. And you weren't working a second job at this point, right? Like it was all in with Wassup. So you're paying for your rent. You're starting to save now. At the point that you hit Mojos, are you starting to save, or are you just converting funds back into business stuff?
Always, yeah. Putting back money into the business lasted for years. And just to go back to the numbers and all the rest, I understood about, numbers in business really later in my business. Mm-hmm. Like at the beginning, I was just selling hot dogs, knowing that I buy the bread for 40 cents and the sausages for 65 cents. That's all I was putting. I was doing the ground numbers, Yeah. I wasn't putting into consideration a lot of other things, which at the later on in date in the business really hurted me.
Right. But at the same time, it's hard to learn the lessons without learning the lessons, like you almost just by the sheer fact of going through the process, eventually when you do come to figure out the numbers, I imagine you've got so much context for why it matters now that it's almost easier for you to understand. You can apply it
and you
in
appreciate
your head,
it.
And you can really appreciate, oh my God, what a difference it would make.
Yeah.
But again, the starting it, I think, is certainly more important.
Yeah,
you're going to you're going to have to make those mistakes.
For anyone that wants to start their own business, don't overthink it too much. Don't make it perfect. Don't try to understand everything. Just like go and get it, you know. And then once you get your business model, you know what product or service you'll be selling. Look into, you know, bettering your skills in, you know, business management. That could be, you know, accounting and all the rest. But at the beginning, you shouldn't focus on that, I think.
And for you, like looking back now, or if you were to try and repeat something like this today, right? Like let's say you're 18, 19, 20 again, you're thinking like, what small business could I try and start to do something like this? Would you do a hot dog stand again?
If I knew what I knew today?
Yeah, if you knew what you knew today, or again, like, you know, there's a young person listening now, guy or gal, going, you know, what could I quickly do? What sort of small business could I just throw myself into and start generating some cash? What would you think about doing?
Look, if to give any advice on starting a small business from a young age, I will look at any business with minimal investments. So anything like a service-based business. So if I was young and I lived in Mosman Park, I would start a window cleaning business. You know, low investments. You can quickly get your recurring, you know, clients, which you have to come every 2 weeks, every month. So I would just more lead toward not selling a product, but a service.
Yep, I think that's a genius idea. The window cleaning business, there's so
Plus, I
many
mean, you go in
places.
Peppy Groove, those people will pay you good money to clean. And, you know, obviously, you just do something really nice and simple because there are businesses that do this. But if you're a young kid, you're very friendly, you're local, you know, you're trustworthy. You get a little hat with the name of your business, your T-shirt. You make it look cute. You got your business card, a little one-pager website, nice and simple. Anyone that are into business will be more than happy to help you get it.
Yeah.
And you just walk up to people and tell them, hey, you know, that's what I do. You know, I want to be able to make sure that your windows are nice and clean, you know, 7 days a week. You know, here's my business card. And those people, most of these people there, a lot of them will be entrepreneurs. They will appreciate that. And most likely, they will just give you a job once a month to support you.
Yep.
So,
yeah, totally agree with that. Particularly if it's in your local suburb, they might know your parents. Even if they don't, you know, again, anytime that you see someone that's young attempting to do anything for themselves to generate a bit of cash that's also, you know, still helpful for the person, you do just want to support, you know, like, because, you know, there's something about it that you just really, you just can't help but love. Like, you know, you're rooting for someone. It is sort of the classic underdog story. You know, you can see someone's attempting to do something or build themselves, generate their own income. And again, you're putting an effort to make that happen. You know, you're not asking for a handout. You're not asking for anything.
Yeah.
You're providing something. And so you just go, yes, I want to support. I think the window cleaning business is such a great shout now that you're saying it.
100%.
I would highly recommend that, because I'm thinking my mum and dad would, if someone came around to offer that, they're instantly signing up, going like, yep, come around once a month. We'll pay you whatever it is, however long it takes.
Yeah, you make it cheap. You know, you build a brand, you know, a relationship with people. You get your first, you know, 5-10 recurring clients for a cheap price. You'll still be making more money, and you're self-employed. Nobody's telling you when to sit down, when to go to work. If you want to stop and move like a window or a specific house from a day to another, you can. I don't know. For me, these kind of businesses as a young kid, they don't just give you money. They bring you freedom. You know, you can do what. And for me, that is what I look into business, freedom.
And you've got the added benefit of if you happen to be in a high socioeconomic area, you know, you're kind of generating a little bit of like contact information, a little bit like some people are just slowly aware of your name and who you are, and you never know when those contacts might come back into the fold. And I think we're going to get back into your story where eventually there is a bit of a refolding coming back in. But anyway, moving back to Wassup Dog. So you said before, start off as gourmet dogs, right? You were saying that, you know, you've always been decent at marketing and branding. You've clearly done this from an early age.
I tell you, there's some video on YouTube I had to take down from back in the days.
Oh, really?
Like the way it was so old school. That was 10 years ago, and me just speaking, you know, half French and English and advertising Wassup Dog and all the rest. And because of the new business I'm in now, I have to be very careful because you don't want people to think that I'm not professional. And so I think the marketing was working at the time. And I remember walking in Fremantle and all this, and people went, hey, because people used to call me the Sausage King. That was cool, you know? And because before being Wassup Dog, I had Gourmet Hot Dog, and people called me the Frenchman or Sausage King. So people would just drive past and just shout, like, hey, Sausage King, because I was such an emblem in North Fremantle. Yeah. You know, people that would go to Mojo's, they will go there because they will have a great time and a drink with their friend, but they knew they could get a hot dog at midnight or 1 a.m.
Yep.
You know, so that was...
which is a great business for Mojo's as well. Like, it really adds to their profile of venue when you know that people are safer as a result, everyone can drink and still get their food in. You know, like, it's a really good business for a bar.
People get drunk normally if someone is too drunk, they would just go to a kebab and go home. For me, and that was my pitch when I was selling it to other nightclubs, say, look, if you have one of my hot dog stand at the front of your venue, people will have their drinks and they won't go to the kebab store and go home. They will go outside, grab their hot dogs and come back in and start drinking again. And that was one of my pitch to get other venues to work with me.
Genius. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just makes sense. You get to establish yourself next to bars that already got a brand, and you start to get this cross pollination. Very, very clever. So, Wassup Dog again? You're being called Sausage King. You weren't tempted to call the brand Sausage King?
It was too sexual, I think. Okay. Sometimes as a young Frenchman, when girls will come and walk past and be, "Hi, Sausage King," I didn't like it. I was as much as I'm very confident, I was a bit shy, I think.
Sure, so, you're getting maybe a little bit too objectified.
Yes, and plus, you just locking yourself into sausages, basically. So, sure. I wouldn't be able to expand the amount of product if only to the burgers or something else.
Sure. So how did you come up with, you said before, gourmet dogs was
gourmet
starting,
dogs,
right?
yes.
Was that just sort of hinging on a bit of your French background, or just because they were literally gourmet?
Yeah, to be fair, they were not gourmet at the beginning. Right. I was sausages, the cheapest sausages from Coles and the cheapest bread.
But it helps that you're a Frenchman. So,
exactly, the etiquette, the French etiquette. Do you want a gourmet hot dog?
Yeah, if I'm not a Frenchman, of course.
Yeah. So it started like this, and obviously as soon as I started Mojo's and started making good money and getting other gig, getting the Fremantle markets Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I quickly went from 1 hot dog stand to 4 hot dog stands. So I was doing markets, private functions, birthday parties, weddings, events, a lot of things. So we had a small catering company going. And that's when I met a guy and, I told him, look, man, I need to find a good name for my business because gourmet hot dog doesn't work. And we sat down and we had a bit of a chat, and, he was sitting drinking his beer and he stood up. He looks at me and he was like, "What's up, dog?" So that's when I knew we got the name Wassup Dog. So, and his name was Owen. So shout out to Owen. He's based in Melbourne. He owned a few bars and restaurant back in the days. I'm not sure if he's still doing it, but that's where the name Wassup Dog started. Yeah.
Well done, Owen. Good little shout. That one.
Amazing name. That as soon as I had the name Wassup Dog as a name, in my head I was even more confident we could be the next Red Bull or the next McDonald's.
So you got the name, and then how quickly do you move? Because to me, I'm guessing you seem like someone that once the idea has been formulated, it's like as quick as you can possibly execute is sort of I would imagine your natural programming.
Yeah.
Right. So you get Wassup Dog. How quickly are you branding everything, getting, signs and shirts and whatever else?
Look, in terms of branding, so I had the name, but I didn't have any brandings. And one night I was at the front of Mojo's in North Fremantle. That's a very good story. And one guy was performing there. His name was Ben Frishaw. Australian guy, but, family, a bit French. Okay. Ben Frishaw is very French. He's a gentleman. He's a very good artist. Look him up. He's got his own sunglasses brand. He's from Perth. The art that he's doing is amazing, but he's a designer.
What's his name again?
Ben Frishaw.
Frishaw.
Yeah, okay. I'll just send you a thing so you can put the name, because I think if anyone likes art, I just love it. If I could afford what he's creating, I will. The day I will pay him to do a mural in my house. That's how much I love what he's doing.
That's gangster.
And at the time, I didn't know him, so he was playing at Mojo's. I was selling hot dogs. He came outside Mojo's and started having a chat. And he told me, hey, how come you don't have, you got such a cool product, you seems like a cool guy. How come you don't have any branding? And I was like, look, you guys in Australia are way too expensive. I know someone in Belgium, 400 euros. I can get it done. I don't have the money to pay someone in Australia, which is true. It was a bit more expensive in Australia. And after an hour of talking with him, he gave me his business card and said, hey, you know what? In 2 weeks' time, come to my office. I will look into something. And by that time, I told him, look, I got the name Wassup Dog, and I'm going to pay someone to do a nice logo. And 2 weeks later, I had no idea what he would be doing. I went into his office and he made me a full blown logo, which was a Wassup Dog logo. I think a simple website, business card and all the rest, all this for free. And I was like, wow.
Unreal.
You know what he told me? He said, you know what? Just give me a free hot dog for life. I was like, deal. This guy will come once every 3 months to get one hot dog. So he wasn't doing it for the hot dogs, but he was doing it just to help me. And he saw my vision and he's always been he's still a very good friend now. He's always been a very strong believer into what I was doing. So anytime anytime I call him and I ask him for advice or to do something, he has always took the time, and he's a very busy man. He gets paid a lot of money, I'm guessing, to do what he's doing, but to help me. And this will come back to connection in business. And when you're starting your own business, when you're young, it is everything. Relationship with people will get you places. And for me, I wasn't talking to people to get free stuff, but I was so lucky through my 13 years of doing business to have helped and supported by people that just genuinely wanted to help me and see me succeed. So relationship is everything, very important. So that's where we got the whole Wassup Dog branding that came in. And very quickly, I think in 2016, I had a few years of running my, hot dog business. I had a good branding. We had a hot dog stand at 13 universities. People liked it. That was a cool little business. And I was thinking of expanding and opening my first hot dog joint, And
how old are you at this point now? So the branding's out. You're hitting
2016. I think I was. I think that was 24. I was 20. Yeah, 24. That time I was 24.
So you've over a few years, you've been building up little hot dog stands. Yeah. Now you've got multiple stands, right?
Four.
You've got 4 stands at this point. So you've got multiple people.
Yeah.
Is it one person per stand?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, one person per stand. So
getting underpaid too, I have to say.
Okay. Yeah. What were they getting paid?
I don't remember, but they were a friend, obviously I was paying them cash. No, I wasn't paying them cash,
Yeah, no, of course not. No.
But yeah, look, it was a young, I remember but friends, even, like people, like friends of your brother were working with me and helping me. My cousin came over and he was working. And so, yeah. But yeah, roughly 3-4 people working with me. I had 2 French guys working with me. Kevin and Nicolas, which are back in Nîmes now, like legends, and they were such a big part. And my younger cousin Ben Chypriot, that Anders, one of our friend that was working, and they were such a big part of the start, the foundation of Wassup Dog.
So during this time, when you've got the 4 stands, what are the stresses that you're dealing with, right? Because it's not all. It's going great, and you've got 4 things that you've got to at least juggle and make sure are doing well, and check in on, and you've got people and such. But yeah, for you during that period, what are the stresses that you're dealing with?
Oh, look, it's hard to remember, but stresses were all the time. In terms of when you do caterings, and so basically you go to places hoping you're gonna sell 100 hot dogs, for an event, or at the front of Mojo's, and it start raining, so you're only selling 15. So you're always, the main stresses were, just buying the produce and keeping them fresh. That was a bit of a hard one. So where you could be losing some money, but I don't think at the age of 24 you stress a lot.
Okay.
I stressed the first time I received my tax bill. That's when I stressed, because I didn't know what PAYG and, GST was. For me, I was receiving money into my bank account. I was spending it. Any money that came into my bank account, that was me money, Yeah. But I remember the first time I had to pay some money to the government. I freaked out. So I had to go on a payment plan.
Yeah, okay.
So that was, maybe a stressful time. But, thanks to the ATO, they are very friendly to small businesses, and, they will make it work with you.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, ATO. Okay, so, that's the thing, because, again, it's mistakes that you kind of go through. There's no intent or malice behind what you're doing, but eventually you can only know so much. You're ignorant about an infinite number of things, and you almost have to stumble into these problems to then go oh shit.
You have to go head first. No, when you start in business, and if you're not surrounded with people that are in business, just go head first and
that's. I think they should be a bit comforting as well for anyone that there is either just starting, having started, wants to start small business, because worst case scenario, even if you didn't know about everything tax, PAYG, GST, all these things you just discussed, you didn't know about any of this. You really stepped into it going, oh shit, wait, I've got to give money back to the government. And even that's a pretty worst case scenario for a lot of people, right? It's oh shit, I didn't realize I was going to owe all this money, and you still can figure it out, right? There's still ways to get over that, and then next time you'll.
What you think is big when you have a small business and you're young is very tiny. You always find a solution, or you find someone that has a solution. If you are open to people with your problem when you're in business, you will find that there's always someone that can help you or that wants to help you. So, you will have problems. Just go into business thinking you're going to have problems, but just know that you're going to solve this problem and just find the issue and, find the solution. So that's the mindset.
Totally agree with that. I think at the end of the day, every problem you face in one way or another has been faced beforehand. So, there is a solution out there.
And you know that you've run your small business, and your industry was tough. So problem always come, and you just have to, you have no choice. You make it happen, because if you don't make it happen, you have to stop. Do you want to stop? No, I don't want to stop. So guess what? I'm going to keep going.
I think that's really handy as well. As you were saying before, those relationships, particularly early on, they become so valuable for that exact reason, that when those problems do pop up, if you've got someone that you can call on that you're pretty sure has probably dealt with this, or they've dealt with a collection of problems similar enough that they can transfer, this is how you might want to go about solving this. It gives you a lot of that support and confidence to continue moving forward. And again, it turns out that people really have experienced what you're going through and really can help. And it's just simple things, like simple knowledge
100%.
Makes all the difference, where you haven't spent a week of worrying and trying to figure something out, and you're going, oh, that's what I have to do? Yeah. Oh, wow, you've done that before? Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
No worries.
Your problem that may seem really big to you will be tiny for someone else. It will be like, cool, man, that's easy.
Yeah.
Do that. Oh, I know that guy. Bam, solved.
Yeah.
So that's why opening up to people if you have a problem in business is very important. That's a mistake I was doing from a young age, and that will come at a later time in business, where I kept things for myself because I wanted to be a man. I wanted to solve them myself. But when I could have just say, hey, I got a problem, and people would just be willing to help. And
I think just to riff a little bit again on the relationship side, as you were saying before, not everyone might be as charismatic as you, Jules, and maybe you don't even think you are. Maybe you think you're a bit introverted at times and such. But, from at least speaking with you, you're very charismatic when you're speaking about something you're passionate about. I can say that for sure. And I think that comes across, and it's like a very authentic, it's not like you're hiding away from the fact that you love the idea of business and making money and figuring out, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, and you want to be big, big vision. And again, it's authentic in its nature. And I think that gets people on side as well very quickly.
Yeah. You need to trust, you need to believe in yourself.
Yeah, okay. I think that as, was it Ted Lasso? Believe, belief in self will, and whatever your vision is, it doesn't have to be the biggest vision in the world. You don't need to be making the next McDonald's, but you can be at least building something that you're really into. And if you're genuine about it, people can't help but want to support.
100%.
Right? But if you really are doing something just for the sake, or for, for someone else's goal, that also comes across. It's very difficult to feign that authenticity. And if you're trying to feign it, I would imagine you wouldn't get the same relationships and mentors. The mentors
100%. Look, I've always been extremely genuine. And even now in business, the type of business I've been involved in, just increased. But believing in myself, believing to the product or the service you're about to sell, and just being genuine, just being transparent, it's a key principle in me doing business.
So now, Wassup Dog, we've hit the 4 stands, right? Yep. Now you're thinking about the next stage.
That's when the exciting part comes in. I mean, I think the whole story is exciting.
Yeah.
So I told you that my first job in Perth, I was washing cars at Toyota, and at night time I was working into a pizza shop. And I remember telling those people that one day I will have my own cafe, and they were laughing at me. I was 18, and I remember them laughing at me because I was a dishy there, So I got the 4 hot dog stand, the girlfriend from Austria, and basically we went for a walk in East Perth, and I forgot about that cafe in East Perth. And I walked past, in front of 113 Royal Street in East Perth, and I see the cafe where I used to work being for rent. What do I think? I look at myself, I say, life is trying to tell me to do something. I straight away took the phone number. I say, excuse me, sir, I need to rent your cafe. And that's where the first Wassup Dog opened.
Unreal. And
yes, my friend.
The person that you called, was it the original owner that you
No, that was George, the landlord.
Okay, sure.
And I was 24 years old. He could see I had not too much experience. He could have told me to fuck off because, it's a big thing to... I was on a student visa. I didn't even have like a full-time visa. I was on a student visa. You're legally able to...
You can only work a certain amount of hours.
Exactly,
and whatever, yeah.
But you are, as much as you can only work 24 hours a week, you can legally have your own business. Anyway, that's a little parenthesis. So I called that guy and I felt like life was telling me to open my cafe. So straight away, bam, I had a bit of cash. I started working on, Wassup Dog. A few months later, I opened Wassup Dog in East Perth. So that was the first place. That was the first place which was focused on gourmet hot dogs and beers, opening 7 days a week, 11 a.m. till 9 p.m.
And just give me a little bit of a sense, like what it takes in order to rent out a space like that, right? Because you've got to sign a certain length of lease. Do you need a certain amount of capital? Do you need a certain business plan available? Like what is required in order for someone to actually, set up a business within a commercial space?
Look, so first you need to contact the landlord. You need to have a bit of cash. So if you want to open, let's say my cafe was 70 square meter. So let's go on the basis that you want to open a cafe for 70 square meter. You will want to have, the rent, you will need to put a bond money. So, like 3 months upfront bond that will be sitting in the bank account. So if you pay $5,000 a month, $15,000 that will sit here that you will get at the end of your term. And in terms of, for me, I think I built my cafe for $60,000. Second-hand equipment, all the tradies that were working on my cafe, they were backpackers getting paid $20 an hour, carpenters and all the rest, and that was great. So that's why I did a lot of the work myself. I had a lot of support from friends. Mm-hmm. It was very simple at the beginning, but yeah, basically contacting the landlord, having a business plan. I did a very simple business plan. I had a friend at the time. She was studying architecture, Sue, from Korea, but a very nice girl, and she made me a 3D plan of my concept.
Nice.
For free. Relationship once again.
Yep.
So this was really helpful for me to get the guy to accept it, because at the beginning it was like, look, you cannot speak English. He didn't check my visa, but I think he knew I didn't have a visa, but he wanted to lease his place because he had a lot of place for lease in his Perth. And he believed me, and that's it. I started renting the place, which was great.
And again, even to get into to rent the space, so you needed a bit of capital up front. Did you have to go through a bank or anything like that?
No, cash, yeah. I mean, when you're on a student visa, no chance. The bank, they don't even talk to you.
How long was the lease for the original
5
contract?
years. 5 plus 5.
5 plus 5. So 5 years, and then you can extend for another 5 if you want at the end of that term.
And look, when you're young, and it's really important to have the right people around you. For me, I signed a lease that was maybe too expensive for what it was. And, they had a CPI, so an increase every year of 4%. Basically, I was paying as expensive as what people were paying in Leaderville. But at that time, the reason why I opened in East Perth was because I knew the Optus Stadium was getting built and the bridge in between East Perth and the Optus Stadium. So I believed, that was my whole idea for the long term, for my investments, that the Royal Street in East Perth will become the next Leaderville. Like full of cafes and restaurants. But there's one landlord that owns the whole street, and he's not lowering the prices. And I've seen a lot of people trying to rent spaces, but it's too expensive, so they go to other places. So it didn't work out. But that was my plan.
Right. So that was your market research. Wasn't so much. It was I'm paying attention to the universe. The universe is sort of maybe saying, this is maybe something I should set up. This is what I should do. And then the long term was like, well, it makes sense. I've been out the front of these clubs and bars, and at the end of a night of drinking, we sell. Now you're I'm trying to be as close to the end of a stadium where you've got thousands and thousands of people leaving, exiting. They're going to walk through. They've had a few beers. We're going to sell the dogs.
And remember, passionate and irrational. I was heavily irrational, because when I was about to take this lease, all my friends told me, Jules, don't do it. Why would you do it? It's a dead street, And I was irrational and a little too passionate. So I say, fuck you, I'm going to do it. So I just did it. And to be fair, if I had to do it again, I don't think I would have picked this location. But because I was passionate and irrational, I just made it happen.
So then at this point, you've got now the shop in East Perth.
And the hot dog stand.
Right. And you've got the hot dog stands, the 4 that are still rotating around the areas.
Yeah.
How long does it take, or does the restaurant ever really kick off? Does it start to get busy? Is it always kind of in this sort of...
It started kicking off very well, but we had a very rough start at Wassup Dog. So at the beginning, we're doing a lot about hot dogs and beers. But as much as people buy a hot dog on an event or, just at the front of nightclubs, it's not a product that people wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I want a hot dog today. So it's you spend a lot of money and time at educating your customer base. So that's why after a few years, we went from being Wassup Dog to Wassup Cafe. And we went from still doing hot dogs at lunchtime, but opening 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. okay, and just focusing on coffees, because coffees is something that Australians love, and they will drink a coffee every day. So that was a game changer. But yeah, at the beginning, the business model the idea was great, but you're not in the States where people just have hot dogs, okay? The only hot dogs that people think of, most of the Australian, they will be when they go to IKEA,
Bunnings,
or Bunnings. And that was a big problem, which I realized at a later date, which I should have done my market research. But back at that time, I didn't give a shit about market research. I just wanted to have the next McDonald's, I was just going, with my irrationality and my passion, and be like, I'm going to be the sausage king. I'm going to have like my business plan. At that time, I had a business plan. And by now, on my business plan, that would be amazing if I could find it again. That would be hilarious. By now, I would have maybe like 70 or 100 stores all over the world. Hawaii, Hong Kong, Paris, like everywhere in Australia. It's so I had a very big vision.
You should try and find that, and frame it.
Yeah, look, yeah. I think I should. I think that was on my old laptop, but I could look into it. But yeah, so we went into opening the first cafe. We had that was working, but obviously I didn't have the experience I should have had when starting this business. But I don't mind that I've done it because I'm here today,
Yep.
But yes, I was heavily inexperienced.
So does that end up meaning, again, you've got this place now for at least 5 years, or certainly a contract for the lease itself. You've maybe during it, you're sort of figuring out, okay, dogs aren't always going to be what someone wakes up to want. We're also on a street that maybe isn't performing as well as it could be. There's just too many vacant areas. There's not enough foot traffic. All these sort of problems are creeping in as to we're not getting as much revenue as we would probably be able to in other circumstances. Are you, during all these periods, ever thinking, fuck, can I just throw this all in?
No. Not giving up is so part of my mindset. I don't give up. I make it work. In business, not in all the aspects of my life, but in business, I just don't give up. I just make it work. And no chance, I just make it work. It's it's not even a question, And to be fair, changing from Wassup Dog to Wassup Cafe happened a bit later, because when I opened my first location, Wassup Dog in East Perth, a few months later, I think 5 months later, I opened Wassup Dog Fremantle on Market Street. And that was another big mistake, because you're 24 years old. I didn't really have the cash flow. I just wanted to expand because I wanted to be the next McDonald's. You don't open a second location 6 months later when your first business model, the first venture is not working well. Mm-hmm. I didn't know my profit margin. I never knew what was a P&L at the time. And maybe I knew, but I wasn't looking at it. It's simple in business. You look at how much money you make, how much money you spend. If you make more than what you spend, well, you're growing. Well, I was looking at all this. So that was a big mistake opening Wassup Dog Fremantle, which I ran for 3 years and ended up closing it down because I had too much financial issues. So, I went too big too fast. And that was one of the issues. And that's when I had my first big setback, where I realized that I had $400,000 worth of debt. I was owing money to my parents, which I had to borrow money to my younger brother, to the ATO, to suppliers, and I didn't want to give up. So that's when I decided to close Wassup Dog Fremantle. And I didn't want to because, ego. You're young, you don't want to close, a store when you're thinking you're going to be the next McDonald's. But that was actually a very good decision. And the day I've done it, I was like, wow, I should have done it before. So, you went from the hot dog stand to one store to quickly 2 stores to the whole thing being too much for a young man. All the money that the business was making, the 3 businesses under the same name was going to the same bank account. That's another issue. If you're going to have different venues, you want different companies. Because if one venue is doing wrong, it will drag the other one down. Right. It's very simple, but if you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. Well, I was 24. I wasn't thinking of that, and simply, the money that was coming to the bank account, I was spending it going out, at the niche nightclub in Littleville. So for me, I was living the high life. I loved it. We had an amazing team. People that were working with me were amazing people. So I was having fun. But then I got to the realization, because you can lie to yourself as an entrepreneur very easily when you are irrational and passionate.
Yeah. You kind of have to.
Something that doesn't lie is numbers, and at some stage, numbers just hit you in the face. So that's when I knew that obviously I didn't pay my tax bill for, you don't pay, so cool, next month's gonna be fine, and And then, you know, it's like the Titanic. It just, you know, sink very slowly. You don't see it. But one day there's water and you're just like, fuck, I'm actually sinking.
Oh shit, I'm actually drowning.
So that's when obviously things became very hard and was a very hard, very tough life lesson for me. I didn't want to give up. My parents wanted me to close everything and return to France because they didn't care about the money. They just cared about me. But for me, I was like, fuck no, I'm not giving up. No way, because I owed them like $100,000. And in my head, I owed like maybe $30,000 or $40,000 to my younger brother. And in my head, I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to be that guy to just go home and just put his ass down and that just, you know, took $100,000 of my hardworking parents and just, you know, just waste it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
So basically, and to put into perspective into mental health, which that was my first time it really hit me when I was younger. I was living in South Perth at the time, and I was working from 6 a.m. till 9:30, 10 p.m., 7 days a week, like 16-hour days, like nonstop. I was going home and sleeping, and I was driving from Fremantle to South Perth through the freeway. And I remember a stage in my life when I was 24, 25, that I was so down mentally and tired and exhausted and feeling like I was a failure because I didn't make it happen, and I was dragging my parents and my brother with me. That's, you know, I got into a bit of a dark space, and I remember driving on the freeway, and sometimes you got these bridges where the train stations are. And I told maybe a few people this, but I think it's very important if some young kids start getting into business. And I remember thinking that it would be so easy if I kill myself, basically. And that was a very hard moment. And I would talk to people, and I've always been the very bubbly and friendly guy. And I remember looking at this bridge above the train line and be like, I understand why people kill themselves, because all the problems just like disappear. And but I never did. Because in my head, not that I didn't want to have all the problems disappear, but I didn't want to live, you know, my life being like a loser and thinking that I would not pay back my parents. That was the biggest thing in my head. I was like, no way I'm going to let my parents think that I gave up. That wasn't because I didn't want to leave. I wanted to leave. It was mainly because I didn't want to be that guy. But I remember I was in a very dark space, and I was doing a lot of work trying to be positive, spending time with a lot of people and not talking. And that was at that time, which I mean about like reaching out, that I realized that later on in life, when I talk to people about my issues, that people were just here to help. People were genuinely keen to help me with money, help me for free at the cafe, you know, just let me pay the bills a bit later. But until then, I wasn't telling anyone because I wanted to be a man. That's a problem. Men's we're doing a bit too much. Is we don't share things. And we're like, I think women's do this a bit better. And now we get to, you know, life. It's getting a bit better. It's like, man, it's easier for us to share. But back in the days, for me, no, I just wanted to be tough and a man, and I didn't want to share issues. You know, I wanted to solve it by myself, which was a big mistake. But anyway, fast forward, ended up realizing that, look, the two cafes, things are, you know, Wassup Dog Fremantle is dragging East Perth toward the bottom. So I decided to close Fremantle, which was a bit of a setback. But as soon as I did it, I felt extremely happy. Then went back to Wassup Dog East Perth, and that's when I rebranded it from, I looked at the whole entire business. I mean, look, Jules, put your shit together, let's make it happen. And that's when I looked at the entire business, rebranded it. I said, look, nobody gives a shit about hot dogs. I mean, we've got people because we were selling a lot of hot dogs. But what does the Australian market want? Coffee. Wassup Cafe, let's do some coffees. And we started the brand, and that's when the business like took off.
So did you, again, so like you hit this sort of low period, you're basically burnt out, you're feeling like an absolute failure. You've finally thought, well, not finally, but you've thought like, oh, okay, like that's the end goal. No, but you've thought like, all right, could easily just end it here and that would solve everything. Well, it wouldn't solve everything, but it would at least solve it in terms of my experience on this world. And then like, how long were you in that period? And like, was that sort of the reset was that sort of the impetus to go, okay, all right, we need to figure out how do I get out of the situation? So is that when you start to talk to people and someone goes, you need to close this place down.
Yeah,
here's what you do to rearrange the numbers. Like, I guess, because, you know, when you hit that, and I think the other important thing, as you sort of mentioned, you know, there's always the option to reach out, but it never feels like it's really there, I guess. But you've hit this like really low point, and was it you addressing that out loud in your head? Like, did you like sort of really face it in like, now that I've considered that, or, you know, been in this dark place, you know, what was the next move?
It was a chance of like not giving up, and numbers don't lie. You know, at some stage I got to a stage where I knew I wouldn't want to hand it. I knew I didn't want to give up. Well, no choice, make it work. You know, as simple as that. So that's when I started looking at things. I had to close one of the plays, decided to close Fremantle. But, you know, it happened very quickly. Not really many people looked at the numbers. A lot of people started helping me and trying to help me. But the reality is that my business model wasn't working. Simple. Anyone that has got to be, that understand, you know, P&Ls and all the rest, they will look at it and be like, look, you know, you're spending too much money for what you make. It's as simple as that, you know. And I started, obviously, just closing Fremantle and focusing on Wassup Dog Perth.
But I think it's important because it's all well and good that, you know, you hit this place, and obviously so many people do hit this place as well, for a number of different reasons. And it seems like, or it sounds like, you know, you've got a couple options, and one of them is to basically give up, and that's not a great option. But you made the option of like, well, I'm not going to give up. So then, what do you do next? And you can spend, I'm sure, plenty of time, paralysis by analysis, not doing a whole lot. But you take a second to sort of step back and say,
I was bleeding money. I couldn't.
So you sort of at least go like, all right, I need to clearly look at what's going on, and let's figure out the next step to go, right? So you've kind of moved from, I need to take a second to reflect on what's happening, and then I have to take some practical steps to...
You just have to move forward. When you get into that space and, you know, on the verge of bankruptcy, because I was owing so much money, I was looking at, people were telling me, Jules, go bankrupt. That was as simple as that, and it still is simple. But it's so messy, which you cannot, from, you know, being a small entrepreneur and, you know, being young, you cannot start looking at things and, oh, cool, I'm going to start. You just have to get going, move, you know, fall forward, just start, you know, knock down walls and just make things happen one thing at a time. And I don't remember having a plan, but closing Fremantle was like a big thing out of the way, because then my focus was not split in between East Perth and Fremantle, because the catering business, when things went a bit bad, I could slow it down. I didn't have lease or anything, so I just put the hot dog stand in the garage and I focused on the cafe. But when I was able to close Fremantle, that was something out of the way, and then I could look at the entire business model, look at my margins, making sure the menu was good, the staff, you know, and everything was just like, I remember contacting my landlord and he reduced the lease, the rent a little. So, you know, you look at things, but you just have to move forward. You know, you have to, it's a very, very, when you're into this stage in business and you're struggling financially, it's very active. It's every day. And it's the, you know, half % every day that you improve and you change and you better, you know, and one day you wake up and your business is great. So.
Very cool. Very happy that you sort of could figure that one out, because there's no doubt closing a place down would be a hit. And, you know, if that was part of the larger plan, great. But obviously it was a recalibration of where you're at and what you had to do.
Yeah.
And giving part of, as you said, a little bit of your pride up maybe, but for the long term was the correct move to do, right? So, I think that's the hard part, is because it's, in some ways, maybe you think in your head, is this me giving up by closing this down?
Yeah.
But it's not.
No.
It's just living in reality of like,
how do I
now move through the situation? Yeah.
And you know, like I listen to a lot of people that have been very successful in business, and they talk about their early failure, and they just say how important they are. Yeah. And for me, that issue at Wassup Dog, and basically that was me not having my accounts and my numbers right, forced me, as soon as I closed Fremantle, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna understand the numbers. It's like moving to a country. You don't move to France to leave if you don't learn the language, or you're gonna try to learn the language. Well, business, the language is numbers, and you shouldn't do business if you don't understand numbers. And this setback forced me to start looking at P&L. So that's when I started looking at P&Ls, doing percentage. So, you know, based on my turnover, you know, how much was my rent in percentage, so 7-8%. How much was my cost of good, 28%. How much was my wages, 31%. You know, and that's when I started having a business model and being like, cool, every time the percentage go higher than this, well, it will affect my profits. Okay, so that's those setbacks made me the person that I am today, because I'm very big into numbers, and that really made it work to my business that I have today, because I looked into my books. I love looking at P&Ls. I just love it, you know. And without the experience at Wassup Dog in Fremantle, nearly going bankrupt, maybe I would not have learned as well, and I would not have been as dedicated as I am today.
Yeah, I think it happens in so many different domains where someone comes up a big problem in their life, and then it shapes not only what they do, but also then how they help others. I'm sure now if someone came to you and they were starting a business and they're like, "Oh, Jules, I'm not understanding these numbers," you're like, "Sweet,
I love it."
Yeah, you'd be like, let's get into it. Let's take a look. So you end up solving problems for yourself, and then naturally it almost allows you to sort of do that for other people.
100%. Like for me, anytime someone comes to me and they want to start their own business, and I can see they're genuine and nice, and they're not here just to get free advice, they genuinely need help. I just love helping, and I love talking business. So I was on the run club this morning, and that woman, like a young girl, like a young Australian, she's want to buy a bakery in Exmouth for $1 million. She has not much experience in the food industry. I love it. I love talking about these kind of things. So yeah, if anyone listen to the podcast and they want to start a small business and they don't have the right people around them, I'll be more than happy to go for coffee and have a bit share what I know. I'm far from being the most successful business guy in the world.
Yeah.
But I made yeah, that's true. Oh, look, I'm very confident too, without being too cocky. But I like to give back because I've had so much people helping me when I was younger that I feel, and I will always do it, I want to give back. So, that's something I always do when I see someone wanting to start their own business or they're struggling financially. I love having a sit down with them and, seeing if my experience can help them in some ways.
As a general, if someone was to ask, where would you start? I don't know anything about my business. You don't need to give me a full plan of how you'd run down, but for basic advice, I've started a small business. I really have never looked into my numbers. What are some basic steps I should do or look into in order to just try and get a basic understanding to begin with?
For me, if they've got 1 year of trading, I'll ask them to print the P&L for the entire year. Look at the product
and the profit and loss statement.
Yes.
How do I even get that?
Usually your accountant will give it to you if you don't have one, or if you use Xero or MyOb. It will be
some
fairly
accounting
easy.
software.
If you don't have any, you sit down with me and we put all this into, I love spreadsheets. We put this together in a spreadsheet. Very simple. How much you buy your product, how much you sell it, what are your expenses, what service do you give, how much is the cost of your service, your expenses. Very simple, And from there you can work on, cool, is this profitable? Do you need to increase your price? Do you spend too much money on cost? Is there a big market? How can you advertise better? Can you get recurring income? Then you look into step by step. But first, you want to look at the numbers. It's like the language of business.
Yeah. Cool. And are there any people, books, podcasts, or anything that you went to really help your learning kick off? Or was it more person to person?
Person to person and learning through my mistakes, 100%.
Okay.
I'm sure there are plenty of books that can, and YouTube video and all the rest. The thing is with content online is there are so much content. It's hard to pick the right one. So if you can find someone that is willing, and for me, I've always been a big believer in talking with people. And since I was in a young age, I would talk with older people. And I remember my friend telling me, Jules, why do you waste your time talking to that guy? There was one guy coming to the Fremantle market every Sunday morning, very old guy. And I was telling my friend, I say, guys, you are stupid. This guy has been living for 75 years. And he's sharing with me in 5 minutes what he has learned for the past 75 years. This is value, So just you want to be able to talk with people if you can. So video are great, but if you can get one-on-one experience for genuine people that are willing to share the experience and what they learn in business for you to not repeat the same mistake, you should take it. That's gold.
Beautiful. And now you've, just to get, I guess, to the next little stage of Jules's journey so far in Australia. And, you're a person that, the reason why I wanted to have this chat is even from a young age when I first met you, I always sort of kind of looked up to you being like, dude, what a fucking cool thing he's doing, man. Like he's just starting this business on his own back. It's expanded. I was at Notre Dame University in Fremantle. So I was seeing Wassup Dog. I was coming through and eating it. And I knew the story that it just started from a little sausage, hot dog stand. And, now I'm just seeing this big building around and I'm just thinking super cool. And obviously from the moment I met you, just been the loveliest dude as well.
Thank you.
But very clearly, at least from my end, regardless of Wassup Dog, it seemed clear that you were definitely just moving in a direction. You were like passionate about what you're doing, and you're going to get somewhere, whether it be with a hot dog stand or with whatever it ends up being. But you hit this point, you've closed down the shop, you're readdressing things that you've haven't really touched, which is you're getting more accustomed with your numbers. You're now figuring out, how am I getting into more of a business mode than simply just a let's just grow mode. And then what does the next transition phase look like, right? Because you've been in this business, you've started it from nothing, you're now figuring out the business side of it, and then we've got this like few years period where we shift business, we do a couple of different things. But run me through, I guess, the mindset, the process of Wassup Dog and how that ends up sort of closing up. Because Wassup Cafe, as you said, you converted to coffees. Australians are addicted to coffee. We love it. We jack over coffee. We like a good coffee is literally orgasmic in the morning, right? So you've entered into that zone. You're giving people their daily orgasm when they wake up. And then, what's sort of this next process that goes on?
It's very interesting to speak about all these, because I told you that's my first time doing a podcast, and I don't get to speak about and people ask me sometimes about business, but I never really speak about the entire journey since I came to Australia. So it's very exciting for me. Like, I got so much to share,
Okay, cool,
I'm sure you can see it in my face. Sometimes my eyes just, are wide open. So basically what happened is I went for Wassup Cafe, and I started working on, the business model, started getting better and better and better.
Does this mean as well you're spending less time in the shops doing the cooking and
at
things?
This stage I was. Because basically the $400,000, I still had to pay them back. So I had to work hard. So the way into a small business, because the profit margin are so low, the best way to save money is to increase the turnover, and you can replace wages, because wages in Australia are expensive. So I was working a lot. But basically I got to a stage where I'm able to send $100,000 to my parents, send $30,000 to my younger brother, just pay back all the rest. And then what happened is the business got to a stage, and I still believed in Wassup Dog, and I loved it. And I had this little cafe that was killing it. Toward the end, I could only work 20 hours a week. I had a great team. I was making $150,000 a year just running my one cafe. So it was good. And I was so thankful of the actual business because of what happened in the past. I know what it is to work hard and struggle. And I met a guy, which is my best friend now, Lawrence. He's in the car industry. And basically, this man is not smarter than me. As much as he thinks he's smarter than me, I believe that we are the same. And he's got 24 hours in a day, just like me. He's running his business just like me, but he's making, so much more money than me. And that was in 2021. And I was like, you know what? I love Wassup Dog. I believe it could be the next McDonald's. But I realized, and I didn't have the capacity to make it happen. Okay, that's when I knew I was cool. I don't have the capability. I don't have the cash. And I was like, you know what? Fuck you. Like, I'm not gonna keep on going with the cafe, working hard, selling $4 coffees to make $100,000 a year, when my mate is making $500,000 a year. He's still working the same hours as me. He doesn't have more than 24 hours in a day. He's not smarter than me. He's just a normal guy like you and me. Yeah. And I was like, I'm into the wrong industry. So that's when I decided to put Wassup Dog for sale. Someone came and bought it, great brand. The business was doing well. I sold it, I think, for, just not much. I think $250,000, $250,000.
And your debts are cleared at this point?
Yeah. And I had a bit of cash left, so which was good. And basically, I started looking into my next industry. And all this was triggered because of my mate. He was making $30,000, $40,000 a month net profit, when you make, you start talking good money.
Yeah.
Now he's so very well off.
Wait a second, what's going on here?
No, but I was like, this is so unfair. Yeah. I'm working so hard. I'm so dedicated and passionate, and I'm making $100,000 a year. He's still dedicated and all the rest, but he's making much more. So that's when I just knew I had to change industry. So I put my business for sale, and I sold the cafe.
Can I ask just about the sale itself? Because again, people might be transitioning, thinking like, maybe I want to get out of my small business. Maybe I do want to sell. And it's not always necessarily easy to do. No. And luckily, you've made a business, figure out how to turn the profit. It's doing well. So, you're in a position where selling it is, you're not necessarily, I guess, selling it at a loss where you're going, I'm fucked at the moment, I need to get rid of this thing. It was, more for a strategic move. You're going, look, I could keep doing this, we could push it, but actually it's doing well, but I think I could do better elsewhere, right? So you're in a much better, stronger position to sell. But then the process of actually selling that small business, like, how do you do it? Do you market to people? How do you actually sell a small business?
So this is a very interesting question, and I wasn't planning to talk about it because I didn't think of it, but I actually like the topic. First, you need to value your business. So, you can go to a business valuer, they will tell you usually sell your business based on your profits, and there's a multiplier. So you make $100,000 profits, you multiply it by 1, 2, 3, 4, just whatever you want to. Or you can sell it based on the turnover. Some maybe industry do this, but in the cafe industry, the people were telling me, look, Jules, you can sell it times your profit because the economy wasn't too good. Banks are not loaning to risky business like cafes. But because I had a good brand, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put it at 1.5 the profit I was making. A lot of people, you take, business brokers and all the rest. I was very lucky. I put it on Gumtree. I sold my cafe on Gumtree. Not many people will tell you to do it, but the reason I want to get that point is the best time to sell a business is when you do not want to sell. Too many people sell their business when they want to sell. They are desperate. And that's when you get people that give you the lowball offer and you end up saying yes. So if anyone out there have a business that is working very well, they are thinking of selling, but they don't want to sell it yet, put it for sale now. It doesn't mean you have to say yes to the first person that comes in. But it can take, 6 months, a year, 2 years to sell a business. But if the right person comes with the right price, you can exit. So it's very important. Too many people sell their business, but when they want to sell, and that's not good.
So for you literally just went, okay, you did value your business, or did you go to a third party to?
I went to a third party, and then I put it a bit more expensive, and I sold it myself.
Okay, so you got a basic valuation. And then you literally just went on to Gumtree. Were you trying to advertise elsewhere, or you just thought, I'll put it up, and then...
That's the thing. I didn't want to sell it, so I wasn't in a rush to put it on like 5 different websites. I put it on Gumtree. A lot of people sell businesses on Gumtree, and that's another mistake. They just hide the name and all the rest. For me, I was so transparent. This is Wassup Dog. This is who I am. This is why I love my business. This is why I think you should be buying it. I told all my clients, because you don't want to be selling a business, lying to your clients, and then they say, look, Jules, what the fuck? Yeah. So for me, I was telling them, look, guys, just to let you know, and I used Wassup Dog, the page, because we had 10,000 followers, which was good to say, look, we're selling the cafe. I just want to get to the next step. I want more challenge. I want to do something much bigger. So people were actually happy for me to do it. And so just Gumtree, didn't want to sell it, put it for sale. It took me a year. But people will come to me and be like, started talking all this. And before we walked into my cafe to show them the cafe, I would tell them, look, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want us to waste my time. I'm not going to move by $1. My price is my price because I actually don't want to sell my business. So if you don't want to buy it for the price I'm advertising it for, well, I'm going to keep it because I make money. It's, the fact of not wanting to sell it. It's selling without selling. Yeah. The guys was like, fuck, and some people will just walk out. Some people will still come and give me an offer. I will be, look, I'm sorry, I'm keeping it. It makes great money. I work 20 hours a week, and and so I had a client that came in and they bought it for the price, So if you're trying to sell your business, really, if your business is going well and you're thinking of potentially selling it, put it for sale because it takes a long time to sell a business and you'll get the best price out of it, 100%.
And then when so you accepted the deal, they paid the price that you were asking for. Did you have to stick around for a few months after for the transition period? Yeah. Okay, so you had 3 months, so there was a bit of a clause, I guess, within the...
Yeah, it was fantastic. Obviously, the owners that bought my cafe, I told them from the beginning, this is a community-driven cafe. We're doing like 300 coffees a day, so, like fairly busy. And they were like, oh, yeah, no problem. Like, we want to be involved. And during the entire 3 months of them working with us, they came maybe 5 times. And they they'll walk past my staff without saying hello. They would just come and talk to me. So the business went down very quickly. But Crazy. For me, during the entire time of selling my business, I told them, guys, this is not a business you buy and go sit in Bali and make money. This is a business where people want to see the owners. They want to see that they're supporting a small business. And they were telling me how they understood that. And I made it very clear. It took a long time for me to sell the business. That wasn't a quick sell. But yes, they didn't listen to me. So, but that's not my problem. You know, life is a big book. You got chapters, and I just had to turn the chapter.
Yep.
And that's it. Saw the money, and I tell you, when you're young and you've been through a lot of struggle and you receive like 200 plus on your bank account, it feels good.
Yeah, feels nice.
Look, obviously, this money I had to pay back some things and all the rest, and I straight away reinvested into the next business. So I wasn't, I didn't do anything crazy with it.
And you're still paying tax on that
of course,
as well, and everything like that. So,
but it's a rewarding, a very good feeling. So I cannot wait to sell, businesses for $10 million where, you can just actually have proper fun with it.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Very cool. Yeah. To see a large number like that in your bank account, I think for me or a lot of people, 100 grand in the bank account, there's no debts need to be paid off, no liabilities here, nothing of that needs to go to the tax man. It's just you've got 100 grand in your bank account. That's definitely a goal of mine at the moment. So pretty cool that you managed to, you kind of hit that and you're like, now what? It almost would probably, for you can probably tell me, was it like the world is your oyster again? Like you can do almost anything? What was the...
No, because $100,000 is not much, but it meant for me that I could go into the next business. I had cash to start the next venture. And so that's when I started looking at what is my next venture? How can I be like my mate? I want to make, $50,000 a month. So I started looking at businesses and industries. And that's why I told you before. I was talking, and the reason why I created the next business called True Blue Studies was because I was talking with my chef at Wassup Dog, and he was telling me how the international education sector is the fourth biggest import of Australia. It generates something like $40 billion a year. And straight away, because I was an international student before, I knew that would be my next business. So within a week, I started, the company, just got a website and just started going.
Yep. And so you were selling the sale of Wassup Dog in the background. You didn't already have your next move, right?
Yes,
you were like,
I did.
So you already knew that you were going to get into the immigration side of things.
6 months before, when the people were looking at buying, I was looking at my next business. So by the time I did the sale, I think I already had the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I was very quick, and during the time.
So you didn't have from the moment the business is sold, do you have a downtime period, or you're already straight into it?
Yeah, I was working at the cafe, helping them and running my new business. Yeah. No way. Like I just wanted to make it happen. I wanted to make money. I wanted to create. I love creating things.
Yeah.
So and True Blue Studies, to put in perspective to the listeners, it's a business that link Australian education providers. So universities, vocational courses, English courses to international students. So we've got agreements with like 200 plus education providers around Australia, and people contact us. They want to study in Australia, and we facilitate all this. We help them with the visa, the enrollment, and all the rest. And this has been going since June 2021 until today. And we are 6 full-time staff, and we sold last year roughly I think $5 million of courses.
Unreal.
Yeah. So it's a good little business. I got a great team, and I replicated a lot of what I've learned at Wassup Dog into the current business in my management. The company culture, I thought that was just a normal thing. I thought that everybody had a good company culture, but not. At Wassup Dog, for me, I always took great care of the people who were working with me. I want them to have fun. I want them to be excited to come to a shift, And I remember I was telling them at the time, and I've done the exact same thing at True Blue Studies, and it's just very important. And obviously, I'm very big into numbers, cash flow forecast, profit forecast. I got into that deeply, and I think that's why the business is so successful now, and it's still running.
Can you give us a snapshot of percentages on your overarching P&L statement, as in, do you know how much is for wages? Do you know how much is gross versus net profit?
This business is highly profitable.
Elite.
It's hard for me to say give a number because that would make people think too much.
Sure.
But this business was able to, bring me on the same stage of my mate that was making the kind of money.
Epic.
So, which is amazing. It's a more of a long-term business because obviously if you come and want to study carpentry with us, I will help you find a school. Then the day you sign the paper, the letter of offer, your intake starts in 3 months. You won't pay the $20,000 up front. You pay every month. And for us, every month that you pay your commission, we get a percentage of your tuition fees. Mm-hmm. So it's compounding.
Yeah.
So it took us a few years, so 3 years to get there. But now I can see,
Where it's going.
the profit forecast based on the commission we signed for the past 3 years and the recurring income. For me, I can see, and what I love about this business compared to Wassup Dog is Wassup Dog, you open in the morning, you don't know if you're going to be selling 100 hot dogs or coffee or 50. This one, I can tell you exactly how much money I make next month and the months after and the month after. Because I looked at my profit forecast, I think, yesterday, last night, and I got commissions coming until maybe February 2027. So I could close the whole thing and just
still ride the wave of the commissions. Yeah,
it's a very good business. So to go into picking the right business, it's very important. Some business are better. Some business you make money earlier. Some people was more long term. For me, I was more looking at a long term. I like the fact because I was so stressed financially with Wassup Dog, not knowing if today will be a busy day or not. Like getting into a business which I could get compounded, recurring, commissions. That sounds gold. Because even if I've got a bad month this month, I know that the money I'll receive next month. I signed it 6 months ago, so I don't care. Money will come.
Great, a little bit of security that
one.
Oh,
100%. Peace of mind. Yeah. And that peace of mind really helps you run your business properly.
So now, do you have a team of people around you that help with all things business? Do you have a financial planner and an accountant and all these specialist people around you, or have you more go down the route of you use people around you to learn, and then you still do the majority of all of that yourself?
I do the majority. I got an accountant that works with me. Obviously, I'm not cash. In terms of cash, my business is doing great. But in terms of cash, personally, I don't have a lot of cash. So it's not like I need to invest money in real estate and all the rest. But my business is doing very good. So I don't need a financial plan. All my money goes back into my business at this stage of my life, So I don't have a financial planner or someone that will help me with my financials.
Okay.
I'm very strict. I know I got my different bank accounts. My main bank account, I got my holiday bank account, I got my, if I got an issue bank account, I got my fund bank account, I got my investment bank account, and every time I receive money, it just automatically just
splits off into all those different places.
100%.
So do you, and maybe this is getting too much into the weeds, but out of my own interest, do you set yourself up to be paid as an employee under part 100%. Of the company as well?
That's a mistake you do when you have your small business. You think that, no, but you should get paid. And that was my mate that owns the car industry has been telling me for years, and he kind of forced me to do it. And I started getting paid, and I love it. And basically, every time there's a pay run, my paycheck is I'm just an employee. I pay superannuation, PAYG,
Yep.
And that's amazing. And getting paid the money and knowing you get paid, not hoping for the profit to be there, just it makes your subconscious knows that you can pay your rent and your food, then you can better run your business.
Again, just taking away those stresses in life that really do stack up over time. I mean, I've always found that the most stressful or irritated that I get, it's usually going to hinge back on some financial stress that I'm facing, because I've always done things that have not really paid just money. I've done a lot of stuff for just free, really, and so. Eventually you're why am I feeling so fucking stressed at the moment? Probably because I'm so low on cash. All right, that's probably
financial stress is awful. It's it just if you're an entrepreneur and you're stressing because you cannot money because of money issues is tough. It's very hard.
Oh, dude. I mean, you can't help but feel like money, in some sense, is a little measure of failure or success, right? And if you can't generate it, there is something inside that goes, I'm a fucking failure. Fuck! Yeah. You know what I mean? And maybe that's not the best way to look at it, but I think there is a part of it, that is the being able to provide. Can I, am I able to generate this thing?
That's the whole aim of doing business is making money.
Yeah.
Obviously you want to help people and provide a product, sell a product or provide a service. I understand, but you want to make money. So at the beginning is okay, but on the long term, you want to start making money because that can start affecting you mentally.
Yeah. So then now we've been going through this new business. All the lessons that you've learned have clearly
paid off,
paid off, and now paved the way for, I guess, again, is it giving you the freedom now? Because I know that you're looking into another project that is taking up probably would be the bulk of your time now, and this last sort of 3 years that you're building up True Blue Studies, were you on the lookout at some point for I want to start to move into other domains, or how has this sort of next stage come up, I guess? And this we'll sort of get towards wrapping up after this, but it's such an interesting progression that you've made from little hot dog stand to now into
international education.
Into international education with like clear business model, clearly doing quite well. And now you're looking, great, what's this next part of plan of Jules's mission?
So the next plan was actually planned before True Blue Studies. Not many people know, but I've spoke with quite a few people. So True Blue Studies, now I spend maybe 20 hours of my time. Even so, you will see me in the office, 5 days a week. The whole day I worked on my other business on it. But, I will be working with the team and all the rest. So the next business, which is called Avangard Capital, it's an investment fund, and we've got a IGO technology that owns technology in the financial system sector.
What did you say about IGO?
IGO Capital Technology.
What's that?
It's another company. So sister company. One owns the technology, and the other one is the investment arm that is licensed by the technology company.
Yep.
So basically, I met a guy back in 2016 at Wassup Cafe in East Perth. A guy started coming to get his coffee every morning at 7 a.m. to get a mug of flat white. His name was Alf. He was at the time he was like 67, 66 years old. Okay, no, maybe like 65. Very smart guy. I saw it from the beginning. These kind of genius guys that he is a little on the spectrum. He's very smart, very friendly, and you can talk to him and he's just a normal guy, but like you can see he's very smart. And after, a few weeks of him coming every morning, his routine, I sat down and started having a chat with him. And he told me how he developed a system that, like a technology that he used in the financial sector to invest. Okay. He's been working on it since 2003. He's been, he created the whole technology. And he also developed another company that is, that used the same AI and machine learning in mineral exploration. And he ended up listed a company on the stock market called Sensor. Okay, it's not listed anymore, but it was. So for the past few years, we became good friends. Just me having a chat every morning and all this, and seeing how much money he was doing on the market and how well the technology. He was living on the other side of the cafe, so I will come up. I'm part of maybe 5, 6, 7 people that will have been to the office and actually see what he's been with the setup, and we became good friends. In 2021. When I was about to sell Wassup Dog and start True Blue Studies, we looked at commercializing his technology and started an investment fund. At the time, he was very busy with a company he had listed on the stock market. And for me, I only had the experience at the cafe, which I didn't feel it was enough for me to go from running a cafe to an investment fund. It's a big gap. So I took the opportunity that he was too busy to start True Blue Studies, which I'm great. That was a great, Wassup Dog, True Blue Studies, and Avangard Capital, which is an investment fund. Because at True Blue Studies, we have a lot of administration to, we deal with migration. So there's a lot of things that, were needed for me to learn. We couldn't do it from 2021 till early 2023, we kept on talking about us doing it at some stage, but just developing a relationship. I went to travel with him and his partner to New Zealand. They show me the entire New Zealand. They met my family, just good guys. I just love them, Alf and Aaron. And we kept on talking that one day we'll commercialize the technology and we'll start an Australian investment fund using this technology. And basically, early 2023, that's when it did the technology was some new thing were implemented that was very advanced. That was giving us the chance to create portfolios, basically. And the return we were making were amazing. Okay.
So do you have money in this time, like sort of working within the program?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
We tested the latest version of the technology, which it's called Alfred, Adaptive Learning for Ranking Equity and Derivative. So that's Alfred, the name of the technology.
I don't know what any of that means, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. It's fancy, but just Alfred, remember. And basically, we tested the technology for a full year, for 12 months. And early 2024, that's when we invested the first $1 million to properly, to try the technology. And now we are about to be regulated under an FSA license, and we'll be raising between $5 to $10 million. We already have close to $6 million that that was been raised. I'm very confident by the end of this year we'll have $10 million. And we're starting a wholesale investment fund, minimum investment of $500,000, and we are using Avangard capital and being regulated under an Australian financial services license to basically prove that our technology works, because our technology sounds too good to be true. If we talk about it now, but the return, people will say it's a scam.
Oh, 100%. If I put this up on like a Facebook, like, oh, listen to this Avangard investment, the number of comments you'd have to receive of just, it's got to be a scam. Anything that sounds too good to be true probably is.
Yeah.
So I mean, how are you even? I suppose that's the benefit of you guys right now. You're not looking for everyday punters, right?
No, look, we only work with wholesale investors, so people that can put half a million dollars or more. 2, we already have investors. I've been talking about this to a lot of my friends. A lot of my friends are investing, and Alf is 70 years old. He works at Rio Tinto for 24 years. He knows a lot of people, and he's been into big data set management for years. So they know people that are investing into our company today. They know about us. They trust us, and that's how we care. Now we're going to be trading from the 1st of October or the 1st of November until the end of this financial year. And once we've got the return, we can happily, because we are regulated under an FSA license, we'll be audited by a third-party accountant, just making everything is true. And then we can lie. And then we'll be talking about our returns. But we're not looking at, that's why we won't spend $1 in marketing.
Yep.
It's a long-term game. We want to work with sophisticated investors.
Yep.
We've started the first fund, which is the Avangard Alpha Fund. That's for just alpha investors, which will have benefit to work with us on the long term. And this, anything related to the technology and financial space is something I've always wanted to be part of. When I was 14 years old with my cousin Jules Aknin, he works for JP Morgan. He works for a guy that managed $400 million US. And when we were 14 years old, we were talking about compounding interest and all the rest. So it's always been my goal. And so I can see myself working for this company, and I'm the CEO. I will be the CEO in a year or 2 years, because Alf will want to step down at some stage, and to work for Avangard Capital and IGO Technology for the rest of my life. I believe we could be the next NVIDIA. That it's that big, and I'm very confident. And I like saying things like this live, so people have a record. If we start our fund in October, November this year until the end of the financial year, so we'll have maybe 8 months of trading, I'm confident we'll be beating 90% of the investment fund in Australia. I'm that confident. We've been testing the technology for many years,
which is probably 20% plus returns.
Yeah,
something very like confident. That, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So time will tell, as I always say, but yeah, we're not looking at raising money. This is not to advertise or anything. It's just to share the story of, going from Wassup Dog to, international education to investment fund. But yeah.
Particularly so that when we do this chat again in however many years it is, and we might hopefully do a few more before then anyway, but some point in the future to be like, all of a sudden Avangard is now sitting at whatever top of the market. Or something would be very cool
for me, and this to keep me accountable. Within a few years, I am confident that the company will be, we will have maybe $250 million under management within 3-4 years.
And what gives you the confidence? Obviously, you've seen the tech, you've seen the returns it's getting on the market. You guys put in $1 million into it to really be testing over this last period. Yeah. Can you say how much it's up to now, or no?
No, okay. Because I say it will sound too good to be true, and I don't want to have to, defend myself online. And what I mean is, once we've got our return and we can advertise it, it's while being regulated under an FSA license. Nobody will be able. We are lying. And to be fair, we're not looking at retail investors. But in a few years' time, we'll talk together and tell you where Avangard is, and it may be where I think it will be. It may not. Time will tell. But yeah.
Time will tell.
I'm extremely confident, and I'm just not just confident in the team, but we are into our technology is purely AI and ML driven. The entire portfolio construction.
ML?
Yeah, machine learning.
Machine learning, okay.
Yeah, so the entire portfolio is constructed by a machine. We model 2,500 stocks and ETF on the ASX, 1,200 currency pairs, all the commodities, the biggest index, 37 in a US index, 37 index in the world. And we've got 100 years of historical data, clean data. And Alf, which is the genius behind all this, created this algorithm that looks at this massive data set and create this uncorrelated low volatility portfolio. So we don't do high frequency trading, we don't do crypto, we don't do leverage. We buy stocks and ETFs into a portfolio of 20 units, and we hold it long term for minimal trading. Long term also for tax, because our investors, we don't want, we want to do as minimal trading, because if you hold the stock for 12 months or longer, you got less taxes.
Yeah, you have to deal with capital gains as much or something. It's a reduction or something, isn't it?
But look, it's still early stage, but we are very confident. There's a lot of people that are looking, some very wealthy people that are looking into investing with us. And I've got no doubts the technology we've created will be part of the AI and ML revolution around the world, from London to New York.
I'll be looking out for the Avangard ETF. That may eventually rise in the future. I don't know. But I'll be looking out for that one as a retail investor. But no, dude, I just want to say really appreciate the chat that you've given us, a bit of a timeline of your experience. As I said, I think it's pretty cool. You've literally come over at 18, had nothing, like no real sort of backing, figured out how to make $70 one day. That's now converted into you running an immigration business around selling education. And that's now allowing you to move into an investment fund. What a cool story, sequence of events, and it clearly just demonstrates that sort of just commitment to never giving up.
That's big. Yeah, right? Don't give up.
The not giving up and not being too proud of having to spend lots and lots of time without the initial return.
Yeah,
and I think that definitely
don't do it for the money,
right?
For me, it's never been about the money. It was about creating great things with great people. That's always been my motto. Like my team now, Tribute Studies, Wassup Dog. I wanted to create something amazing with amazing people. That was, the way I was doing business.
And money ends up being a good measure for having done that well.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like, as you said before, a business's goal is to make money. Otherwise, it doesn't exist or can't exist into the future. And no dream about doing great things with great people will continue without the basic 100%. Fundamentals there. So they do go hand in hand. But I just think what you've done is really cool. Appreciate you sort of being pretty open about the story as well so far. Really look forward to seeing what happens next on the Jules story. And as you said before, if someone does want to reach out to you, like where does someone find Jules Aknin at the moment, if they wanted to?
Good question.
TrueBlueStudies.com or something?
True Blue Studies. Reach out on Instagram or just on the website and just say, hey, I've listened to Jules' podcast. Can you please put me in contact? And they will just put you in contact with me.
Sweet. I look forward to our next chat. Maybe we'll run through something else to do with how you're managing, I don't know, the immigration business or something, but we'll figure it out when we get there. But I appreciate it, man.
No, man, that was amazing. It was good for me to share my story. That was the first time doing it. The complete story like this live, and it feels good, to be fair. It's cool. I feel good. Yeah.
Sweet, man. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.